It is Tuesday,
It
the
is Tuesday.
22nd
day.
of September.
Trying to bring in a maraga.
And it wasn't
thing
the
here.
day that
It was the day
Earth, Wind,
after.
and it wasn't the day Earth, Wind, and Fire sang about.
Oh, it's not.
No, that was the previous
It's
day.
the morning after.
No, oh yes, well put, well put. But this is the day that we look at Maraga having done it again.
Oops. He did it again.
Oops.
Mr. Maraga.
Maybe not an oops. But
Yeah, he has done it.
Umze ataingia historia.
Completely. Remember, the man is retiring.
See, next year, isn't it?
He's about to proceed on terminal leave in a couple of weeks.
8 weeks.
Yep.
This job doesn't have extension.
His retirement is early next year.
Yes.
So he goes on leave
So I wasn't wrong about next
And
year.
in a
just
couple of
finishes.
weeks. There's no extension.
This job doesn't have extension.
That's it. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not a good job. This one.
His years are done.
No, this job. We don't
Unless
have
he changes his birthday.
That's a bit tricky. The Uduma thing can't work.
No.
Uduma can help him at this point.
No, it can't help him.
Sorry.
How are you, Nduh?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well.
Super duper.
I thank God.
Well done, no.
City Muga. Hey.
See as body they pepper you, city.
Well, Pepe to you as well, but
This is your cloth, not get part 2.
as opposed to part 1,
No, you don't
Do you
get
see
part 2.
pepper or
As in you
pepper?
then don't finish work for your cloth.
not yet. However,
Oh, you never finish us.
comma. You know, this one, this is what, the only comment one can make under this situation is, Dada Nduh anaongea kikwao.
Azungumza kilugha.
Ehe, amenena kikwao.
Bas. City, you look very good today. That shirt is...
I have been told
Unaona
that
uko na shati
statement
mpya.
that in the not too distant past, I was shabby. I did look good.
Who said it? What do they mean?
However,
So you listened.
I heard I'm being negative here. The fact that someone says I look good today doesn't mean I didn't look good yesterday.
Exactly. This is true.
But it is, if it was someone other than Eric saying it, that's what it would mean.
Someone other than Eric in this room?
Someone other than Eric,
In this room.
even in this
In the
building.
world.
But since it is Eric saying it, and Eric is a man of his word, then I understand his word.
Do you guys need a moment?
Okay.
No. This isn't one of those situations where we are airing linen. No, we're just having a brotherly chit chat.
Yeah, it's good. Una, well done.
Well done.
We have a lot to discuss today. We will be looking at Maraga. Has he reached for the hammer? Has he given the BBI a lifeline? Has he scuttled Parliament? Has he given the president a weapon with which to deal with Parliament? You know, something to dangle over Parliament? Has he given the president a grenade without the pin?
Or has he given everybody one last thing to remember him by?
Yep. Yep. So we'll be discussing that. We'll be joined by MP Millie Odhiambo, and we'll also be joined by a commissioner with the Gender and Equality Commission, Priscilla Nyokabi, whom we spoke to last week about this particular issue. Yeah, so we'll be revisiting. We shall revisit. Yeah. Then we'll also talk about Google and its operations in the country and what it's doing to benefit us. If whatever it's doing as a business is also benefiting us as a nation and as a people. But before we do that, let's begin with COVID-19. Now that the president said the orders that I'd given, let's extend them for a bit and then have a meeting and on Monday, and which I'll give you the way forward. So in the meantime, how are we looking in numbers?
Well, Rashid Aman, CAS Rashid Aman, Dr. Rashid Aman yesterday, told us that 98 positive cases out of 1,644 samples brought the cumulative number of positive cases in the country to 37,079. And he also noted that Nairobi and Mombasa counties continue to record the highest rates with a total number of 100,000. So with the number of positives. So now the highest number of positive cases against 100,000 people, right? So on that number, Nairobi and Mombasa were the highest, and says that they've maintained this. So also said that 62 people had recovered from COVID-19, including 44 home-based care, with a cumulative number of recoveries standing at 23,949. And the death toll, unfortunately, rose to 650, with 2 more deaths announced yesterday. So that's what Kenya's looking like, just over 37,000 cases. And again, everybody continues to talk about the fact that there's a decline in the number of COVID-19 positive cases in the country. So from that, it could be that Kenya has begun to flatten the curve. However you choose to interpret that is up to you.
Okay.
Let's look at the rest of the world, where 31,480,517 cases is what the global tally looks like. 969,290 deaths, 23,109,592 recovered. The United States still continues to record high numbers, with 40,000 cases yesterday. Did you hear that? 40,000 cases in the United States yesterday. Taking them to 7,046,216, with 204,506 deaths.
UK?
The United Kingdom, remember, they kind of did what Tanzania did. And they said, okay, we're still going to continue, collecting these results, but we're not going to make it public on a daily basis.
How's that worked out?
Well, 398,000 cases in the United Kingdom, with 398,625, with 41,788 deaths. They're not talking about active cases. They're not talking about those who've recovered. And that's what they're going to say. They're not going to keep telling you on a daily basis what the rest of the world is doing.
However, they are in for a second shutdown.
Likely to be announced in the next couple of days from what we've heard.
Yes, that is what is coming up. And what has actually been issued are orders that all these cultural establishments where people eat and drink, 10 o'clock, shut.
Yep.
So, that experiment didn't quite go as they thought, did it?
No.
But then there are these details of summer, the activities of summer, the consequences of summer, the overcrowding we saw in the beaches within the UK, the overcrowding we saw of people in other beaches within that particular European locale. And now we see them doing a complete reversal of what they had said. And now they're taking it seriously.
Yes, they are. I mean, people are still reporting those stories of, my loved one has passed. Please take this seriously. I mean, if 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line, people are being asked to take it seriously now, then I don't know.
And we're heading to the cold season is here. And it's going to just get colder. Yes. So this issue of shutting down, locking up, unlocking, there is no country that has opened up, none that has opened up the economy with positive results. None.
That's true.
And no country has not opened up.
So the question, the obvious question is, do we keep the lockdown? Or the question really is, do we need to lock down the country anyway? Because countries that have not bothered to lock down, if you look at, it also goes along with the results that they make public to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But again, we've argued here that you can't really hide deaths, can you?
Nope.
Not really.
No, you can't.
And reports, in this day and age of social media, you will get to hear, you'll get to understand, won't you? Yes.
Well, this is it. I mean, you don't know what you're going to see until the day comes, unfortunately, especially with COVID.
The only silver lining in this entire discussion is what WHO has proposed to do, to form a collabo, so to speak, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you, of something like 90 countries, to sort of like unify the efforts in vaccine production. But with the view, under a name, COVAX is the name, CORVX. The idea is they want to ensure that when indeed there is a vaccine that has been proven to work, everybody can have access to it. They even have 70, well, not so rich countries. I mean, they're called low-income countries, but they're generally really not so rich. Have also been included in this. Well, inclusion here means, quite aside from maybe your contribution from your own funds, there'll be the element in the phase 3 of testing on humans. So you'll probably also participate in this process.
Yeah.
It had been there, but it had been an initiative that had been brought forth by smaller groupings of research organizations together with pharmaceutical companies. But now, WHO has stepped in. But the UN has also stepped in with their initiative. So I think they're beginning to understand that if any vaccine is to work, you have to make it available for everyone.
Right.
Yes. So the vaccine nationalism that was rearing its head is actually being dealt with. Yes, because the understanding in my mind was clear. If a country actually does come up with something which works, they're going to look after their own people first.
Of course.
Of course. Make sure it's available to your own people. Yep.
So now we'll get everybody, at least will have a chance, a shot at getting the shot.
Yes, but also of interest is that with all these vaccine trials that are going on, believe me, by the time you actually arrive at one which genuinely works and meets the stringent standards that are required by WHO, there are very many others which will not have met that particular master. But the good thing is that the progress can be seen.
With the president in the country saying that he's, with the kind of order that he gave yesterday, likely to reopen the country, from next week after they have this particular meeting, then that brings us back to that question that you're asking, CT. Should we close down? Should we reopen? Should we have these restrictions? Are they bearing much fruit?
My opinion,
considering that you will not sustain it for long. Look at all the countries. So you clamp down, yes, but at some point you'll reopen.
My opinion, based on just observation, which of course is a primary source of data collection, just observation, is this. If the understanding of personal responsibility coupled with an enabling environment, I'm saying, what enabling environment am I talking about? The availability of water, safe water, and then the availability of soap. It doesn't have to be free, but it's a reasonably priced soap.
Yeah.
If we understand that you can get people to take care of themselves, because this is really at the heart of it, then the issue of do we have COVID, don't we have COVID, stops being an issue.
Yeah.
When people say there's COVID or there's no COVID, it's they wanting to do what they want to do. And so with a clear conscience, declare that there's no COVID. So you don't have to worry about COVID. And you see, the declaration doesn't nullify the existence of COVID. It doesn't. Whether you shout it. But what I personally find alarming, truly, truly alarming, is that the news was, it appears like the numbers are going down. And there were reasons given. The understanding, we have flattened the curve.
We have flattened the curve. Now we can reopen.
Second understanding, there is no COVID. Now I'm thinking, when did we arrive at the point when this country was COVID-free? There is no country in the world that is COVID-free. But that's the understanding. And people tell you, I've been told this by
COVID
three people.
dementia.
3 people. And, I was gobstopped. I didn't know what to say.
COVID dementia.
Because now COVID is over, I'm now... COVID is over.
That's the understanding.
That's the understanding.
Yes, it's over.
It's 6:15. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Live stream is up, www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning, Joseph Hightowers. He's saying he's listening in from Kisumu. And from Moranga is Pinches Cubs. All right, Pinches Cubs. Good morning to you. Simon Villa. As always, good morning. Oleka Sassi is tuned in, and Lauren Carrier, good morning as well to you. www.spicefm.co.ke, SpiceFM KE on all the social media handles.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes alive while making homeschooling an achievable reality together, effectively. Tutor Summer Online. Log in to success. A partnership between the Standard Group and the Oxford University Press East Africa.
Now what brings you out to these here parts?
I'm looking for 12 bakers who can impress. I'm looking for creativity. I'm looking for the ability to work under pressure. And I really just want to be wowed.
Ma'am, what you seek is the magnificent 12. I can help you find what you're looking for.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes alive while making homeschooling an achievable reality together, effectively. Tutor Summer Online. Log in to success. A partnership between the Standard Group and the Oxford University Press East Africa.
We're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 13 degrees. We'll go to a high of 26 and lows of 12 today. Njeri is mostly cloudy at 14 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We're looking at Nakuru, where it's partly cloudy as well, 13 degrees at the moment. A chance of rains later on with highs of 22 and lows of 12. Those will graduate to thunderstorms, actually. Looking at thunderstorms in the afternoon in Eldoret as well, going to highs of 21 and lows of 12, where it's currently partly cloudy at 13 degrees. Kisumu's partly cloudy at 20. We'll go to highs of 27. Thunderstorms are also in the forecast with highs of 27 and lows of 18. Kakamega is partly cloudy at 16 degrees, going to highs of 24, and it's looking like a wet afternoon here as well. Mombasa is 24 degrees and partly cloudy. The rains are likely to start any time now. Highs of 29 and lows of 24. Partly cloudy conditions in Malindi at 24 with highs of 28. Looking into Kampala now, 19 degrees, highs of 25 and a chance of rain here as well. Dar es Salaam is foggy this morning, not surprised. Highs of 32 today. It's going to be a warm day in Dar. In Johannesburg, 9 degrees and cloudy. It seems to have dropped a little bit. Highs of 22 coming down to lows of 8. Lagos, the rains will continue today. It's cloudy at the moment and the drip drop is about to start anytime. Highs of 28 and lows of 24. Let's look east in Beijing, where it's 24 degrees and mostly sunny. We'll go to highs of 26 and lows of 17. Clear skies in London at 14, going to highs of 25. And in Paris, it's clear at 14. Sunny conditions touted to last the whole day with highs of 26 and lows of 13. Finishing things off in New York, sunny conditions on Monday night, going clear till 19 and lows of 11 when everybody wakes up.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
21
Nairobi.
minutes after 6, CT Muga. Today's proverb.
Anger and madness are brothers.
That's why people say, I'm mad. I got so mad.
I am angry at you.
I'm mad at you. Don't make me mad.
And usually,
You go make me mad, oh.
Don't make me vex.
Or make me vex.
man,
All right, so now anger, madness,
told
and
you there's some
vex.
languages that are so similar to the English language. See, vex, good word.
And it's Nigerian.
Oh, please. It's English.
It is not English.
It's just that we've, cooked it a little bit.
You vex it a little bit.
Yep.
Some words are English, some are not, right?
It's pidgin English now.
Okay.
The root is English.
How come we don't have pidgin English in this country?
I don't know. It's not an East African
Come on,
thing.
we don't have what? Pidgin English.
You have Swahili.
We have Shang Swahili.
It's colloquialism. That's
and
all
we
it
have,
is.
And we have Luo.
It's it's colloquialism. You have it in Kenya.
For example, what's the word for fire
Luo.
in Luo?
Much.
Match.
How do you light a fire? What do you use?
A match.
There. You don't need pigeon. We have Luo.
No, but it's colloquialism. Like, it's today, Eric and CT.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
This is one of those situations where throw one
don't have
stone,
anything to say.
you hit many birds.
Yes,
That's it.
completely.
like that.
Completely. Again, today's proverb.
Anger and madness are brothers.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say anger and madness are a match. But okay.
I'm not going to change the proverb.
Let's look at the headlines.
So, on the front page of the Standard, Maraga does it again. Bombshell is the adjective that's being used. We'll start with a quote, and he says, "Let us endure pain if we must, if only to remind ourselves that as a country, and being a democracy that has chosen to be governed by the rule of law, we must say no to impunity and hold everyone accountable for their actions or omissions." The bombshell is that the CJ has advised the president to send home MPs for failing to implement the 2/3 gender rule. Women MPs have endorsed the move. The House Speaker shifts blame to the amorphous entity called the state. Male leaders resort to legal principles to save the day, and senators plead for one more chance to pass the law while legal minds move on what Uhuru should do. This is covered on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the Standard. So Chief Justice David Maraga made history yesterday, advising President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failing to implement the 2/3 gender rule. In a new first, the Chief Justice handed a guilty verdict against the entire cast of Parliament for failing to carry out their constitutional mandate despite clear warnings. Yesterday's move came 3 years after he led the Supreme Court in annulling the 2017 presidential election, setting a precedent. Last year, the CJ saved MPs by dismissing a petition filed by Margaret Toili on the 10th of April, citing a bill which was in the House. After this petition, 6 more were filed, and yesterday, he finally washed his hands, leaving the MP's fate to President Uhuru Kenyatta.
May I ask, when you say Parliament, according to our Constitution, are you referring to
National
houses?
Assembly and Senate.
Yes, that's what Parliament means. Isn't
Yep.
it?
Yes,
So
yes.
it's both the Senate.
And the National Assembly
Yes.
that ought to be dissolved. It is a big one, this one. I
It
mean,
is.
it was coming, it was not coming. It has been a back and forth. Parliamentarians have failed, according to the story again in the Standard, page 3, 4 times to pass this bill. The number of MPs out of 349 that came to Parliament this time to discuss this bill was 178, according from an entire number of 349 who were supposed to have come to Parliament to discuss it. None came. Now, the issue of whether the advice by the Attorney General, as is required by the Constitution, to advise the Chief Justice shall advise the President, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. Now, we start coming into the lawyers who will bring in all those issues of, yes, do they not? Is he bound to do this? Is he not bound? Some are of the opinion that Uhuru has no option but to act on the CJ's recommendation. Others arguing that the Constitution does not enforce a timeline. So he can say, yes, I shall, but you wait.
I'll get to it.
I'll do it. It's on my to-do list. James Orengo, Senator, he says, CJ Maraga's advice to the President to dissolve Parliament is momentous, probably the most significant and historic from a constitutional standpoint. How we apply foundational principles and values of the rule of law and constitutionalism is now the big test. Former East Africa Law Society President James Mwamu says the President and Parliament still have a choice. They can go to court and seek an interpretation on whether the CJ was legally right to make the pronouncement, and given the trend of disobeying court orders, the President can choose to disregard the recommendations. Oh, God.
I think it won't be anything different, so it's okay. Yeah.
I don't know whether this is now a legal opinion. Now that the President has disobeyed other court orders, he can also disobey this one. So, all right, lawyer Donald Kipkorir said the President can ignore the letter and let activists file a constitutional reference, which by the time it reaches the Supreme Court, it will be 2025. Maraga is retiring this year. This status will allow you to rule by fiat. This is him telling the President a fluid legal situation favors an incumbent. Works well for the President. The chairman of the Committee of Senior Counsel, Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, came out and first of all, wrote a whole statement saying, first of all, the Chief Justice here is just being an anarchist, right? So what he's doing, it's not legally sound. But anyway, the President does not have to listen to him.
But if I were to go by the tweets that are attributed to him, he doesn't stop there. He actually goes to question the veracity and the competence of the Chief Justice with reference to not just rulings, but his capacity and his tenure even
as a judge.
Yes, and if indeed under his watch, when he was in the judiciary, he has made any landmark rulings that could qualify him as a scholarly justice, so someone whose understanding of the law is profound. Because essentially, he seems to be not stating that the Chief Justice has a scanty understanding of the law.
Has he made such statements before?
Who?
Same lawyer, Abdullah.
Abu Nasir. Yes.
I don't think anybody is spared that sort of derision from this particular gentleman. No, not really. But you see, it's a statement that he has made. Is it really true?
And does it matter?
Does it matter?
Look, the man has been appointed as Chief Justice.
He is
Chief Justice. Appointed competently, has served a tenure. So if at the end of his tenure you're coming back to look at, this man when he was a judge, was he competent?
That's why I asked, have you said it before?
Does it matter?
Doesn't matter. Whether you say it or not, he's been appointed.
He's a Chief
and there's
Justice.
a reason why he was appointed in the first place. So you can say everything you want to say
And
between
at
here and
his appointment, did we hear any loud hue and cry about his appointment?
Yeah.
This is why I'm asking. Has
Regarding
such a
whether
thing
he
been
has
said before? When he was appointed,
It has been said.
at the point that he was given the job
Yeah. It has been raised.
by this individual.
But it has been raised by other people.
No, there were
But-
naysayers. There always are naysayers.
There always will be.
But was it sufficient ground to deny him the
Deny him
position?
the appointment.
And then secondly also, were they specific as to the shortcomings that they kept alluding to and saying, it's like this man failed his exams four times before he was even admitted to the bar. Or whatever it is. I prefer to take a positive attitude towards this discussion. We are being treated yet again to an understanding of our Constitution. But this thing that what we are hearing there amounts to nothing, it is false. You know why? The first season of devolution, there were attempts to dislodge certain governors. Didn't go anywhere. But the bell had been rung. In this second round, one has gone home. There are others, 17 if you go to the number, some say 25, are facing situations that could actually get them into a position where they would actually lose their seats. It means that after that first attempt, the second attempt and the third attempt, when you hear or when you read of such a situation, it doesn't mean it is nothing.
Yep.
It means there is a change. You just don't seem to see where this change can take you.
Yep.
Because essentially, we have actually never had. Have we ever had a situation like this?
Nope.
No, we
We've
haven't.
never had a situation like
No,
this.
we haven't.
No.
And this is the Chief Justice himself. This isn't anyone else. The Chief Justice is saying, folks, my opinion on this particular subject, this is what we ought to do. Because it looks like there's an abrogation of the Constitution. And according to this same Constitution, when this happened, this is what we should do.
Yep.
So these fellows have failed in this very crucial duty. Let them go home.
Yep. And the Constitution mandates me to do this.
Yes.
And this is what I therefore
That's
do.
what I'm doing.
Bas.
And it says very clearly, this is what he shall do. When this and this happens, it's actually two
It's
lines.
very clear. Yeah.
This is what the Chief Justice shall do, and this is what the President shall do. So, Mr. President, I'm doing what
have
my
shall.
my shall, my bit,
You shall your
Now-
and you shall yours. Right. Well, it's a time for another break at 7:27. Time to take a look at what's happening on the roads this Tuesday. It's still Tuesday. Wasn't it Tuesday? Like,
It was Tuesday 33 minutes ago. It's still Tuesday. There was also a Tuesday last week.
yesterday wasn't Tuesday.
It can be if you want it to be.
Yesterday.
You just decide what reality you want to
Aye,
exist in.
bwana. I'm
It's
feeling
okay.
like I've said Tuesday many times before.
You have, in the course of the year, you certainly have. Every Tuesday.
Like this week, I've said Tuesday.
The week is only 2 days old.
You know,
you
this
realize.
this working week began yesterday. So if you mentioned Tuesday several times yesterday,
You might be one of the subjects of that psychological,
If you guys
Remember the
insist.
topic we're
Okay,
discussing
if you insist.
yesterday.
It's Tuesday, the 22nd day of September.
actually, you
It's
really
another
do need-
Tuesday.
you do need to take this thing a bit seriously because this repetition of something and essentially
And then hearing sounds in your head.
and then forgetting that you've actually said it and then repeating it again. Okay.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads today.
Tuesday.
Traffic.
So it looks like an all right Tuesday. So far, so good. Let's look at Mombasa Road. What we expect to see is what's going on. A little bit of a bumper to bumper situation right around the SGR, but it's not too bad at the moment. Anybody who left earlier than this is in good stead. All right, let's look at other parts of the city. And on Thika Road, coming off the superhighway, getting into the CBD also is not bad. Kiambu Road is likely to be a sandwich, but we're gonna have a look at that later. Coming out of Westlands and then going towards the CBD also is looking pretty good. So you'll be able to move right now without too much of a hold up. In about half hour or so, we'll let you know what it looks like. But for now, guys, it looks pretty good. Trying to get in and out shouldn't be too bad. Let us know also if you do get stuck. The eastern and southern bypasses are up and open to and from Thika Road, getting into the CBD via Langata Road as well. You should be fine. All right, let us know if you do get stuck or you find an alternate route for somebody who could use that. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
On dissolution of Parliament. So let's move on to other headlines.
Okay.
Sidio.
So, can I give you?
Yep.
By the way, that headline is on 3 papers. Star,
It is.
Daily,
It's everywhere.
It's
Standard.
everywhere.
Yeah, no, Business Daily
Business.
don't have it.
Okay.
But the other
The
3
people has it.
headline.
Got it.
Yes. So Maraga has made headlines again.
Good for it.
Swiftly moving forward.
Okay. Swiftly moving forward, and what will be left behind? Uhuru's going to leave a 9 trillion shilling debt. There will be little borrowing space beyond 3 years, which implies that this will be the first crisis for the next president after President Uhuru Kenyatta. The national debt is projected to increase by 750 billion shillings in the next 10 months. That is at the rate of 2.6 billion shillings a day. At this rate, Parliament budget experts estimate that by 2022, when President Uhuru Kenyatta leaves office, the debt would hit 9.2 trillion, more than 3 times the total annual budget. They anticipate little borrowing space beyond 3 years because of a statutory ceiling of 9 trillion, which implies this could be the first crisis for President Kenyatta's successor in 2022. It is estimated that the national debt will pile up to 7.5 trillion by June next year, up from 6.6 trillion this June, according to the latest Parliamentary Budget Office report. As at June 2022, according to the report, the national debt stock had reached 6.6 trillion. And will likely hit 7.5 trillion by 2021. The increment has been attributed to the impact of low generation of domestic revenue, largely because of disruption in business by COVID-19 and pressure from expenditure on ongoing programs. Okay, so yeah, that's what's going to happen.
So it'll be 9 trillion by the
9
time
trillion.
by the time this term is over.
Yes.
And where's the problem? I was waiting for the problem statement.
No, it's just that the incoming there's no issue. The incoming president is just going to have a 9.2 trillion shilling issue to deal with. That's all. No biggie.
It's as if it's a president's issue. The incoming president shall have. How about Kenyans will be,
Saddled with
a 9 trillion
excess
shilling
taxes.
debt, details of which they are not aware of.
on
Many of
expenditure, which they are also not aware of.
Yeah, many of these loans that have been taken, and people keep asking those questions. For example, is that office in the Treasury that is in charge of debt management, is it aware of the deals that have been signed?
Remember, the discussion around it has been that this ought to be an independent office, like the Auditor General's office.
Yeah.
Because so long as it is within Treasury, then you have to question any sense of autonomy that it may have, and yet it requires that autonomy for it to actually fulfill the mandates of its functions.
To be properly functional.
This is where now representation really goes south. Okay? Why do we say south as opposed to north? Nonetheless.
Things are going down. When it's up, it's good. Down is bad.
Okay, that sounds like a rap line. Up is good, down is bad. Because the 9 trillion is a representation issue. See, and why the president's name has to be mentioned is he's the one who's represented us in ensuring we get that 9 trillion. Yes. So now the issue of the burden and the carrying of it now follows. Yes. But this is what happens when representation is actually not for your good. But you'll be told it is for your good.
It is for your own good.
That you owe this amount of money as a nation and that you're going to have to pay.
Yes.
For your own good.
It is for your own good.
And it's important that you pay.
It's important that you go through these things. Okay, now, a statement that actually caught my eye in the daily Business Daily. There's a former IC manager, a former insurance company of East Africa. He was jailed for 3 years for stealing 62.7 million from his employer. And he blamed his criminal act on greed and a young, stupid mind.
Whose mind? The young and stupid mind was his own. Okay.
His. What was recovered?
62 million, yeah. I saw that yesterday.
Yes, was 10 million was recovered, but another 7 million was in his account. the people who have that sort of money in their accounts.
Apparently.
Was it also recovered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in mitigation at sentencing, that's when you're saying, look, Your Honor, this was just because of a young.
Yes, and he also
foolish
blamed
mind.
it on the collapsed Nyaga stockbrokers. He said, this money had gone into for investment.
I had actually wanted to grow it.
Yes, that was the whole purpose of my taking it there.
Okay.
But then this particular company collapsed.
It went down.
Yes.
Down, you see?
Okay.
Yeah, but if it went down, did the stocks that you had also bought with them go down? Remember, you're not buying into the company. They were representing you. They are brokers. They were representing you in the business of buying and or selling shares. So how exactly does this argument come to be of significance?
That they hadn't bought the shares yet. You had just transferred money to them.
That little detail, eh?
Yeah. And just before they bought the shares,
The company went under. So it went under with his money.
with his money, the company's money, his employer's money.
Yesterday we talked about the issue of home for the elderly.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just read this for you. This one I have to read. Page 5 of Business Daily. Taxpayers will foot the cost of providing homes and medical care for elderly Kenyans if the National Assembly supports a bill passed in the Senate. National and county governments will be required to establish residential care centers, social centers, and other facilities for the care of older people. Both levels of government will be compelled to partner in the development of physical infrastructure for the care, rehabilitation, and provision of basic care for the elderly. Kenyans who have attained, wait for it, 60 years of age and are unable to care for themselves have often been neglected and will qualify for this state benefit.
Wow.
Okay. I have looked at this.
So there's a
again.
bill that actually has gone
Yes.
through the Senate.
It is called the Care and Protection of Order of Members of Society Bill.
That's good.
That's a mouthful. Okay.
Yes, the purpose is supposed to serve is good. The state will run a bi-monthly stipend targeting citizens above the age of 70 who are entitled to a 2,000 shillings allowance.
All right.
Like many of our plans, does it not sound good?
It sounds
does sound
very
good.
good.
So it needs to go to the National Assembly for concurrence.
Senate
because
has
it's
said, did it?
it's a money bill.
Yes. But what I find interesting, I was saying, I have read, then I've read. I've not seen NSSF. Because many of these people who attain this particular age, which was previously of retirement, many of them compulsorily have been contributors to NSSF.
Yep.
Where does NSSF
Come
come
in.
in?
Yep.
Because they ought to come in.
They should. And you can't say that because they still have their own funding or mechanism for people who then have retired. They should actually be brought into something like this.
Yes, and while they're at it, NSSF, being a public institution, also ought to be telling us the number of people they are currently paying the dues, what those dues amount to on a monthly basis, so we understand. Because when you bring up an issue like this, they'll say, we have expenditure. Yes, true. But surely, the number of people, we have a young population. But those who have retired, the stories one hears, they could be false, but we don't know.
Yeah.
The stories we hear is that people don't get their dues.
No. This is the thing. And interesting because I sat down with a couple of people from NSSF last year. And when they were doing the whole revamp of the fund, in terms of name perhaps, and this was the thing. They have actually
The
owned
revamped
up-
NSSF.
Well, okay, let's just say the face of it. They were given a
okay.
facelift.
Okay.
Okay?
What, they painted the building?
Something like that.
Something like that.
What new
The
chairs?
brand got a lift. Okay?
All right, let me stop being facetious. Please,
The
carry
logo
on.
has a
And this was the
different
thing that
shade
they
of green.
Right. They did own up to the fact that, yes, there were many issues whereby individuals who should have been getting, their monthly payments were not getting. And this was, corruption in many cases was the reason behind this. And they were, like NHIF, trying to deal with this at once to make sure that, everybody who was on that payroll, as it were, gets their money within the next 18 months. So we're looking at this year for a rollout of something like that.
Yes.
So trying to put everything back in order. Again, corruption being the reason behind why some of these monies would disappear.
Nduh, money never disappears.
Theft by servants.
It is taken away.
This money would not go to the individuals for whom it was meant to go to.
However, this particular bill is now under scrutiny by the Labour and Social Welfare Committee, and the Speaker of the National Assembly has instructed that the committee is requested to consider the petition and report its finding to the House.
Okay, so we wait and hear.
But there's an
Wait
aspect.
for what? They're going home.
What do you mean? We're supposed to
Parliament
send
is
them.
being dissolved.
Yes.
Parliament is being dissolved. So this story, water, drink, gone.
The bit that I liked about this one here, this particular law, the bit that I liked about this law is where the petitioners, the people put across forward this particular petition, they want citizens to provide for their elderly parents, and failure to do so, they show.
It's okay, don't worry, carry on. Match.
I did not drink champagne.
It's okay.
Failure to do so, the said individual should be convicted.
If you don't take care of your elderly,
They want this included.
so it shall be compulsory.
If you don't look after your parents, court. Now, what I wonder is if they jail you now, the possibility of
So
that parents being
So
taken
the thing
care
again,
of.
the
who's-
parents will not be taken care of. So
Well, maybe they just said convicted. So convicted means probably they'll enforce you
community service.
To do this.
something. And community service now will be your parents.
All right. All right.
Go back and take care of them that which we had arrested you for not doing in the first place.
13 minutes to 7. Let's take another break and then we'll be back looking at other headlines. This is a Situation Room. Kenya's biggest conversation. Dr. Emeje Moses says Kolanya Teso is locked. Kindly extend my greetings to Madam Elizabeth Onyango. She's also listening while in Musanda in Mumias.
Okay.
Salamu zimfikie Madam Elizabeth
Ni
Onyango
vizuri sana.
akiwa Musanda Mumias kutoka kwa Dr. Emeje Moses. Ujumbe Spice FM ni nusu ya kuonana.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
10 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's look at more headlines as we come to the top of the hour.
The government has asked parents who are unable to pay private school fees to transfer their children to free public schools when they reopen in October. Also to be transferred are more than 45,000 learners whose more than 131 private schools were forced out of business by the COVID-19 pandemic and will not reopen next month. The government has made education free in this country for both primary and secondary school children. Anyone saying that they do not have school fees must understand this, said by Education Cabinet Secretary George Makoha. During the meeting, they had a meeting to receive the task force report on school reopening yesterday. It was learned that the task force and the education stakeholders suggested that schools reopen a week earlier from the October 19th date that they had agreed on by Friday last week. The CS was visibly angry after contents of the task Force report, now under lock and key, leaked, saying only boarders will be required to pay boarding fees. So he was upset that this report had leaked and that details of that had leaked. But he's also saying, look, for those who are saying they don't have school fees, go to public school.
Well,
if you are in a private school and you don't have money, we've made it free, so there should be no complaints.
There is another problem, maybe not that, but private schools have an association called the Kenya Private Schools Association. Their Secretary General, a gentleman by the name of Peter Ndoro, has said that 131 private schools with a capacity of 44,000 learners and 1,300 teachers have given notice to the association, indicate that they're shutting down completely and won't be able to reopen. There are a total of 11,000 private schools in the country with a capacity of 2.5 million. So,
and you can clearly understand that some parents are going to transfer these children to other private schools, and then others will also go to the public schools.
Yes.
So you can imagine the way we're talking about desks, capacity, maintaining safe distance within the classrooms and all. In public schools, it's going to be more of a headache now in terms of the number of pupils that they're going to be attending to now, the number of people that they were attended to by March 15th when they closed.
I think they're being polite.
It's going to be
We're saying headache. It's going to be a mess.
It's going to be a public health nightmare. Remember when they opened up learning and declared it was free? Man, schools filled up.
Yep.
40 became 60, 60 became 70, 70 became 75. And there are schools that would admit your child so long as you come with a desk and a chair.
Yeah.
Admission given, but bring your own desk.
You bring your own desk, chair, find space.
Look, with all of this, I think the ministry I would hope that, as they have these closed door meetings and all of this is going on, that it's necessary that they look at the details of this. Absolutely necessary for you to understand that this is a sector that you cannot treat like the other sectors when it comes to reopening of the economy. That because you have children who are going to be crisscrossing the country, going back to school and this, it needs time, it needs sober-mindedness to be able to apply to this. You can't just say, okay, go back to school. Open. It's not going to be that easy. Everybody across needs to be prepared. Whereas in other sectors, you say it's an establishment, you have workers, say come back to work. In this, you have parents, you have children, you have teachers, you have schools, you have school heads, you have associations. And then beyond all of that, you have the infrastructure that is needed to bring these children back into a situation that is not normal like that which they left 6 months ago. All of these things need to be taken into consideration. We understand that, livelihoods have been affected, but you don't want to create a nightmare while trying to fix a problem. Because the way that we're going right now, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an absolute mess.
There's something I seem to have missed here. There was the discussion not to reopen the school so that the classes that were scheduled to sit for the exams would go back.
This is one of the recommendations.
That is the plan.
Yeah.
But the conversation I'm hearing is that we are opening schools. When you hear that, it means every child who is of school-going age will now go back to school.
This is the problem, you see.
That's what I'm hearing.
With the recommendations that were made a couple of weeks ago, it was
nothing has actually been announced.
Nothing has been announced.
And that's what I was telling you yesterday. If you look at all these stories, they'll have this
It could be.
Italimax.
It may be.
For example, today's story in the Standard, first students report to schools on October 5th. This is reported speech, and it's not actually reported speech. It is the likelihood.
It's not what was said.
It is saying that it is likely that this team will advise the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health will then advise the President that this is what we are going to do, and the government is going to accept that the first students will report to school on October 5th. I have an issue with the way we keep framing this kind of conversation, because it's like we are pushing a certain agenda. It has always been schools are going to open in October. Schools will reopen in October. Students are going to come back to school in October. Now we are saying first students may report to school on October 5th. So we just wait.
Just wait and wait.
Why don't just wait?
Everybody and those who will see it and gobble it up will just see it like, okay, they've said October 5th, that's when we're going back to school. Not listening to what is actually being said.
It's a whole different ball game altogether. Before we go to the top of the hour, I'd like to raise a story here. In fact, there were two stories about efforts to bring peace and cohesion in the country. Remember when we spoke with the commissioner with the NCIC last week, and we asked them, so apart from just issuing statements, what else do you do? And he told us, we go ahead. In fact, there's a meeting that they had held with the communities in Marsabit County that they had brokered peace there. Now, there was another meeting yesterday in Nandi where the NCIC was brokering peace. Peace initiative in the Western region received a shot in the arm after 5 counties signed a peace accord to end incessant boundary disputes. The signing ceremony yesterday at Tabolwa Secondary in Nandi County, the governors under the Lake Region Economic Bloc agreed to end the tribal violence largely caused by land conflict. These counties are Nandi, Kakamega, Kericho, Kisumu and Vihiga, which have been witnessing frequent boundary wrangles, and they promised to promote integration and cohesion. One meeting here in Western. Another meeting that was spearheaded by the CS for Interior, the CS for Land, the CS for Energy, the CS for Environment was taking place around the Mau area, which was bringing in the communities that CTU actually had told us about a couple of weeks back. Communities that have been wrangling because of eviction from the Mau forest. And now those communities, people are going back to where they had come from. And then there is now some
Serious conflict.
serious conflict. So the CSs went there and they met with the leaders of communities, including the Ogiek and the Maasai and others.
Well, there's some Kipsigis, but let me explain something here. That people actually move across from even the North Rift and elsewhere to move to an area simply because you know that the land there is reasonably priced. So you sell yours knowing that I may have an acre, but they'll be able to buy maybe 5 acres with this. You know this, people who have been conned, because that's what it is, should not suffer the way these Kenyans suffer. It is actually wrong. Now, according to what I understand the law to be, ignorance of it is not an excuse. But the truth of the matter is this. The fundamental function of the government is not to look after the interests of its people. These are Kenyans. They have problems. And it's real. And you can't say it's of their making in that they moved, but it isn't really entirely of their making, is it? No.
So now?
That discussion on land tenure has to be revisited.
It's a big one, this one.
It has to be revisited. It's a big one, and it's not going to get smaller because our population isn't getting smaller.
It is not. It is not. Yeah. And if you've sold a piece of land and then now you have been told you've been evicted, right?
Where it's supposed to go exactly.
And you haven't been compensated for that eviction. Basically, you sold your land here, you bought land here, and the person you bought the land from, you no longer see them, and then you've been told, move. So what do you do? Where do you start from? And that's why you're seeing all this conflict arising in these areas, especially this particular area around the Mau.
Those aren't wealthy people. Those are very simple wananchi
who,
to begin with, didn't have much.
Those
evictions, now they have nothing.
Coming to the top of the hour, this is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation in the next hour. Keep it right here because we will be talking about Google and what Google is doing post-COVID economic recovery and growth. How is Google helping us when we Google? We want to find out that. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting as well on www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFM.ke on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning, 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Looking really good on Mombasa Road today with expected traffic in certain parts. That's right around the SGR and then moving towards the JKIA turnoff, but it should be all right. Okay, Ngong Road today is also a bit clogged up right around the junction heading towards Dagoretti Corner, but then heading down towards the city mortuary roundabout should be all right as you then head towards Valley Road or down Ngong Road into the CBD. All right, coming off of Langata Road and then heading towards the CBD as well. Turning off towards Bagathi, we're heading towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Should be all right. Then from Uhuru Highway at the roundabout of Nyayo Stadium all the way to Westlands is what we expect. Bumper to bumper situation. Coming off of Thika Road, the Thika Super Highway at the Pangani Underpass as you come off of Kiambu Road also looks good. However, Kiambu Road as usual this morning, is a sandwich. You're going to have to be patient there if that's where you're stuck this morning as you then try to join the highway after that. All right, so most parts of the city looking pretty good. Let's take a look in half an hour and see how that may have changed. You get stuck somewhere, also do let us know. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, it's the best way to start your day. This is Kenya's biggest conversation on this second Tuesday of the week.
Stuck on Tuesday.
I still feel that we have done another Tuesday. It's the 22nd day of September 2020. In the room, of course, is C.T. Muga, Nduh Okoh, and Eric Latiff. C.T., let's start off with today's proverb.
Anger and madness are brothers. Remember, you know these African sayings are
So say
really
siblings.
gender insensitive.
I was about to ask you.
I never hear, I've not come across anything about sisters. No, it's, okay, let's go again. Anger and madness are brothers.
It's okay, they can be brothers. Listen.
Our brother and sister.
They can spark if they see fit.
Which one do you think is the sister here?
Oh, I just knew.
Okay.
This is where we're
So
going.
this knowledge that arrived at you, or what form did it take?
Which
So
one
what
are
did you
saying
know?
Which one are you saying is the sister?
You tell us. Is it the anger or the madness?
No. We need to be comprehensive in our approach here, and we need to be fair. I would say it's a bit of both.
Wow.
Anger and madness are brothers. That is today's proverb. Welcome to our audience on KTN Home, joining us now until 9 o'clock. Welcome, and this is The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM. We are also online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Yes. And also on www.spicefm.co.ke. Now that we speak of YouTube, let's talk to the boss of YouTube in the country, right? And this is the Google head for East Africa. Her name is Agnes Gadaya. A couple of weeks back, we spoke with the head of communications for Google, Nduh Okoh, and we were asking, during this time for COVID-19, the tech companies, especially companies like Google, are the ones that are making money worldwide. So how is Google also helping us in the fight against COVID-19 and also in recovery? And how are you assisting the communities? And CT, you really went trying to dig deeper into the CSR programs that Google has, or any other programs that would help uplift the people, and understanding what Google is doing. So she said that in a couple of days they were going to be announcing something, and this is how Google was going to be able to support the community in various activities, right? So let's speak to the boss and find out whether those activities have been launched. Google Country Director for East Africa, Agnes Gadaya, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you're live on YouTube. So
YouTube.
Yes, the wave is good. The wave is good.
The wave is good.
The greetings have been received. We are waving back.
So on the 14th of September, Agnes, Google announced that you've committed 300 million shillings in grants to support education, entrepreneurship, women empowerment in Africa. This is part of Google's support to help business, job seekers, education institutions recover and rebuild from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic.
Eric, 300 million in which currency?
Kenya shilling.
It's Kenya shillings, isn't it, Agnes?
So let me correct that. So we committed 300 million shillings worth of support to help small and medium enterprises across Africa transition digitally during this time. We also committed $1 million in support of the most vulnerable part of our communities, and I'll speak a little bit about that. We also committed another 225 million, again in terms of grants, to another segment of our vulnerable population. So we have several pockets of funds that we have provided to this country. Some of it is, to the continent. Some of it is in kind, and a lot of it is in cash. And I look forward to diving into that.
Oh, let's dive right into it.
Please dive.
Right away.
No time like the present.
Start with the first part. And this is the 300 million.
So the first part is that we have a program called Google My Business. Now, if you go into Chrome and you Google almost any business, what comes out, or a known business, what usually comes out is called a profile. It's a little box that has a little map on top of it, and it usually says call, get directions, go to website.
Yeah.
And that is called a profile. Every single day, over 50 billion people search on, we have over 50 billion searches on Google. The businesses that are found are the ones that have profiles. Usually what we do is we have our partners in market who help you build these profiles, and it usually costs a little money, about 4,000, 5,000 shillings to come up with your own profile. Then after that, you have to build a business site. So what we're saying is during this time, across Africa, for the first 500,000 small businesses that come and log on our site, we'll be able to build these profiles for them, as well as build for them sites at no cost. Now, when we looked at, and this is just to step back a little bit, when we looked at the economy and everything that was unfolding, we tried to ask ourselves at Google, what are we best at? And the underlying theme that kept on coming through was that if a business wants to survive during this period, it must, quote unquote, this word that has been overused, pivot. But what exactly does pivoting mean? Pivoting then became, you must move from a brick and mortar way of selling to going digital. Now, for big organizations, that's a simple, they can figure it out. They have the resources to figure out what that means. But increasingly, SMEs did not know how to then move from the way they traditionally do business to move their businesses online for them to survive during this period. And as Google, what we did is we looked and we said, what do we do best as Google? What we do best is to provide the tools and resources that are required for these businesses to be able to, quote unquote, pivot during this period. And that is why those 500,000 businesses are so important for us. Now, the reason why we are talking about this today with you is because these 500,000 businesses are spread across Africa. And I'm praying and hoping that having showed up here will then mean that as many of these will be in Kenya. There is no quota for a country. It's first come, first serve.
So how does a business access this service?
So what a business does is it goes to, there's a site called google.africa118.co.ke. I've shared the link, and maybe you can post it on your social medias. Now, when you go in there, you click, and after that, it's very, very simple. You're asked to fill in a little form, and you ask for a callback. within 3-4 hours, you're called back and certain information is gotten from you. And then we go through the process of verification so that you don't register your sister's business. So once we have verified that indeed this is you, this is your business, we then build your profile. The process of building the profile has been templatized, as you can imagine. And once we're able to verify who you are, it takes 10 minutes. So you then get a link and it has your profile. It then makes you easier to find. So for example, today, if I'm Googling bread, the companies that have profiles are the ones that will come up at the top. If you don't have a digital presence, then the 50 billion searches that are going on every day are looking for products and services just like yours. If you're not there, then you will not be seen, and then a portion of your intended business will then disappear.
I want to digress a
So
little
for
bit,
us-
Agnes. For the
Go ahead.
50 billion, before you continue, forgive me for interrupting your thought process. Of the 50 billion searches that feature in your system, have you categorized them and determined the nature of these searches? They can't
Yes,
all be
and,
people trying to figure out who has which business where, surely.
No, when someone is searching, they're searching for something.
Yes,
so
they
today
are.
I might decide I want a pair of blue shoes. So I'll go in and I'll search blue shoes. Now, if you sell shoes and you have blue shoes in stock, there's no way I'm going to know if you don't have a profile and if you don't show up on the search, right? So what we are saying is, if you sell shoes and you have blue shoes in stock, for example, and your profile is there, then you're one of the first people I'm going to see. I am then going to explore your shop. But if you don't have a digital presence at all, then I will never know you exist. And that's the value of the profile.
From the statistics that you have at Google, are you able to tell what are the most popular categories of businesses that people search for? Like now during this pandemic, when people have gone online, are they searching more for food services? Are they searching for clothes and apparel and fashion? What category is the most popular?
So during this COVID period, it's been very interesting. Most of the searches, or the number one search, has been around how to cook. So how do I cook this? How do I cook that? And a lot of the content creators we have seen emerging during COVID are people who look like you and me, who know, for example, how to make chapos, which I don't. So you'll find, because I'm staying home more, I'm in the kitchen more and I'm cooking more. But most of the searches, or the number one search category we've seen, especially in this region, has been around how to cook and how to cook different. So, for example, yesterday we were presenting somewhere about a company that's involved in potatoes, crisps, whatever. And when we looked at all the research that we had, the number one searched thing in Kenya was how to make masala chips. So during this COVID period, a lot of people have reconnected with their kitchens, and it's emerging and pulling through as the most searched category.
Even without COVID, are you seeing, or would you not have seen that in terms of support that Google would then give to companies, that it would be on the digital platform to get more businesses in Africa seen, to get more businesses in Africa then compatible with global trends now, when we see that more people are shopping online, more involved in e-commerce and things like that? Would it be that you would then give support with or without COVID?
So Google has been in country for 11 going on 12 years. So Google has been in country for 11 going on 12 years. Our investment history in Kenya has been very consistent. Some of the things we have done is we have developed or have trained developers in this country in total, we had a goal of training 1 million developers in EMEA. In this country, we've managed to train over 30,000 developers, and these developers have gone on to work in tech across the world. Now, another thing we have done is we have gotten partners closer to the ground to be able to make these digital assets available to Kenyans. So as I mentioned before, for Google My Business, the company that is implementing this on our behalf across Africa is a Kenyan company. They're called Africa 118. And what we have done over time is reduce the cost of access to about a minimum cost of about 4,000, 5,000 shillings per business. During this COVID period, what we've decided is to zero rate that cost of access. So that is the difference. It is not that we are only intervening at this point. It is that at this point, we are being extremely purposeful about exactly where we are putting our money and where we can make the biggest difference based on our mandate.
Tell us a little bit about the investment or the participation Google has had in education in this country.
So in this country, we have Google for Education, as well as we have Google Classrooms, and these are global programs. These have been running for quite a number of years. Indeed, 30 million children across the world use Google Classroom today. One of the things we have done here in Kenya, actually one of the things that Google did globally during this pandemic is to completely make it free for anybody in education to use the Google Classroom tools. Here specifically in Kenya, we started doing a lot of training. We have worked with about 30 schools. We have 10,000 students currently using Google Classroom. And you're going to invite us again because we actually have a case study that we're releasing soon of some schools in Eldoret. These are public schools. This is not an elite school that are using Google Classroom to be able to continue learning. So we know we have closed schools, but the opportunity for us to continue learning is something Google takes a little bit seriously. And during this period, one of the things we launched was teacher training. So while we have an objective of having 500,000 students across Africa on Google Classroom, one of the issues we had is how does a teacher take their curriculum that they're so used to teaching, and how do they convert it into a digital curriculum? The next question is, how do they teach and get the same outcomes that they would, or almost the same outcomes as they would from physically being in class? How do they then manage parents, communication with parents, continuous communication with students? How do you, for example, set exams and deliver exams online?
Yeah.
So this training is available, and it's something that we actually launched 2 weeks ago. We want to train 25,000 teachers, and again, this is free, to be able to go and learn how to build their classes. So that should this be extended, or should we decide to embrace the digital way of teaching as a hybrid with classroom learning, that they have the tools and are able to actually deliver on this.
Okay. Agnes, just sticking on this education, because it's been one of the things that has been glaring when it came to COVID in terms of what needed help. I'm a huge proponent of public-private partnerships and looking at the fact that government needs help sometimes, and that there are organizations that are domiciled in the country that are best placed to be able to help fill the gaps. Education was one of those big holes that we saw now in terms of continuity when it came to learning, when the physical schools had to be closed. The government has also tried right now to tell us that in the next coming months, with funds that they've set aside, what they want to do is to be able to make sure that those who needed this online learning, for example, would then be supported. Would this be something, just based on what you've said now, something that you would be able to plug into? Because here you are and you have these plans to do all these wonderful things. You've talked about, the Eldoret case. Is it something that you would be able to join hands with government to make the reach wider and to have more depth into the country?
That's a fantastic question. And when the government actually announced that they were going to set aside funds to drive digital learning, that was extremely exciting for us. Policy engagements with government are something we get excited about, and partnerships that would help transform the country, especially from an economic perspective, are always extremely welcome. So one of the things we are doing is to see, is there an opportunity for us to actually partner with government on this initiative? So the conversation is still extremely nascent, but we would actually welcome an opportunity to explore how our tools, for example, would be used in this situation.
I want to take you back a little bit. When you said there were these schools, 30 schools or so that you had partnered with, what criteria did you use in determining who it is you're going to partner with?
So anybody who wants to partner, any school that wants to partner with Google is very welcome, which is why we are doing the teacher training.
Please repeat that statement again. Any school?
Any school that wants to partner with Google, is welcome. The tools are free.
Agnes, you're speaking to a chairman of a school.
BOM.
So that's music to his ears.
Yeah, please, let's sign up. As I said, we are training 25,000 teachers right now for free. You need to enroll all your teachers today to get trained and kick off and ensure your children continue to learn.
What happens if you receive 30,000 applicants for this training? Are you going to say that, no, as Google, we only have 25 slots for 25,000?
So what we will do is we'll relook at it at that point and see, do we need to expand the project? Actually, even the 30,000 teachers we are talking about, we are saying 30,000 by 2021. If we finish the 30,000 in this year, then we go back into the organization and request for more resourcing. The way Google works as an organization is it allows the organizations on the ground to be able to best articulate what their specific needs are. So once we finish this, and especially if we train the teachers, they start using the tools and we start being able to measure an outcome, then it becomes a very simple ask to go back and ask for more resourcing.
Are you approaching it from a teacher plus school perspective? Because, say, in a certain school, 2 teachers are the ones who've come and gone through the training, but then the school would like to roll out this particular project for all its students and all its teachers. How would you be able then to support the school itself in implementing this program?
So the programs on how to train the schools to be able to implement this are all online and are on a portal. So they would be able to go and get this done themselves. When I talk about 25,000 teachers, that's the teachers. We also want to ensure that we have 500,000 students already learning. So if we have 2 or 3 teachers from a school trained, it also means that that school can come with its several thousand students to be able to then teach them. We'll give them each a student access that is private to them, and then they'll be able to start using the curriculum.
Let's take a break now. We're speaking with Agnes Gadaya. She is a Google Country Director for Kenya and East Africa. We are looking at the kind of support that Google and other companies are able to offer, and today focusing on Google in recovery from this COVID-19 period. We know that COVID-19 has ravaged many people's livelihoods, companies, and also disrupted school and learning. And that's what we're just discussing now, about learning and how Google can support learning. When we come out of this break, Agnes, we'll talk about other cadres. For example, we know from statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that the percentage of percentage of women who have been impacted by COVID-19 is higher than that of men. More women have lost jobs, more women have lost their income. Is there any kind of support that is being set aside, for example, by Google, in terms of training, in terms of helping them to set up businesses that is available to them? We'll discuss this when we come back. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM, KTN Home and online. 26 minutes after 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Now, what brings you out to these here parts?
I'm looking for 12 bakers who can impress. I'm looking for creativity. I'm looking for the ability to work under pressure. And I really just want to be wowed.
Ma'am, what you seek is the magnificent 12. I can help you find what you're looking for.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, still partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 14 degrees, going to highs of 25 today and down to lows of 12. Njeri at 15 degrees is mostly cloudy, going to highs of 24 with lows of 13. And partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 14 degrees, going to highs of 22 and a chance of thunderstorms later on in the day. Let's look at Eldoret, where it's partly cloudy at 13. We'll go to highs of 21 and also a chance of showers or rather thunderstorms here later. All right, what's going on in Kisumu? It's partly cloudy at 20. We'll go to highs of 27 and showers as well. Kakamega is looking at thunderstorms in the afternoon, going to highs of 24. It's currently partly cloudy at 17 degrees. Mombasa this morning, partly cloudy as it were, 24 degrees, going to highs of 29 and lows of 24. And in Malindi right now, partly cloudy conditions at 25, going to highs of 29 and lows of 24. Out of Kenya and into Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 19 degrees, going to highs of 25 and a chance of thunderstorms later on in the afternoon. The fog is still quite low in Dar es Salaam. It's partly cloudy conditions at 23, and the fog will be back later with highs of 32 and lows of 23. All right, in Joburg, it's cloudy still at 9 degrees, going to highs of 22 and lows of 8. Still, the chill seems to have come back. And finally, for now, in Lagos, cloudy conditions at 25, and the rain will make its debut this morning, taking it to highs of 28 and lows of 24.
Chilled Spice. Spice FM. Njeri.
All right, the traffic this morning is not too crazy. We are looking at good conditions on Thika Road coming into the CBD via the Pangani underpass and then leading yourself towards then the Globe Cinema overpass or going towards Forest Road. It's the normal early morning traffic this Tuesday, and we don't have anything too crazy or out of the ordinary. I think we're getting used to the fact that because of the expressway, a lot of roads will be affected. Uhuru Highway for one, all the way from Mombasa Road or the Nyayo Stadium roundabout through to Westlands. It's going to be a daily occurrence, so I think we need to get ready for that. The roads are still being sorted out on in industrial area, Likoni, Lunga, and then connecting with Joko Road because of that construction that's taking place there. Take that into consideration as well. So traffic continues to be an issue in those areas. Apart from that, shouldn't be too crazy. Spice of MKE, you get stuck somewhere, do let us know and we can see how we can help out or at least keep you company.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, KTN Home, online on www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And on Spice FM, we're on 94.4 in Nairobi, in Malindi 97.7, Njeri 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru. Kisumu is 102.5, and Mombasa 87.9. This morning, we are speaking with Agnes Gadaya. She's a Google Country Director for Kenya and East Africa, talking about the support that Google is offering to various cadres, businesses, and other groups that have been affected by COVID-19. Just as we went into the break, Agnes, or talked about women. Women have been more severely impacted by COVID-19 in this time. Data by the government's Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicates that women have lost more jobs, more income during this time. Is there any support that Google is offering to this particular group?
So one of the things we've done is we've made a grant of about $1 million available to Give Direct. So Give Directly is a company we've been working on, an NGO we've been working with for many different years here in Kenya on quite a number of interventions. This specific intervention is to target 500 of the most vulnerable women. Give Directly is coming up with a way of targeting and finding them, and they're working with partners, for example, Shofco, to find these women. These women, one of the things that we're requiring of Give Directly is that they must be the ones, the poorest of the poor women. For example, the Mama Fuas who completely lost their incomes during this COVID period. And what we've done is we've come up with a program that 500 of these women are going to be identified. Once these women are identified, they're going to get 6,500 shillings for the next 5 months for their upkeep. They're also going to be put through entrepreneurship training, specific skills training. When they graduate from that training, they're then going to be given a grant of about 112,000 shillings each to allow them to start their new businesses. Now, this is a program we're going to follow quite closely to ensure that the outcomes we are looking for are actually delivered. So that's the specific program that we have for 500 women whose income sources were affected by COVID during this time.
This is only in Kenya?
This is specifically for Kenya, yes.
Okay, why 500? Why not 200 or 1,000 or 50? Why 200 or 500?
So this is because, again, we as a local organization, we went to the larger Google. And the larger Google has a site called google.org that does CSR work. Now, google.org is supporting the whole world. So every country that has been affected by COVID has an ask of google.org. So what google.org did is they provided us with $1 million. But for that $1 million, they wanted a well-structured program where we're not just dishing out money, but where we have measurable outcomes. So rather than do 1,000 women or 2,000 women with that money, we said, why don't we do 500 who we can impact permanently and sustainably? And that's why we have 500 for that $1 million.
And what outcomes are you looking to see? What
We are
will
hoping-
this success, what will it look like?
Success will look like these women having enterprises and businesses that they can feed their families into the future. Businesses that will be able to withstand the rigors of I guess, the economic ups and downs that we usually have. We are working, or should I say Give Directly is going to work with another partner on training on very specific things. So things like dressmaking, baking, etc. And at the end of it all, the equipment required for this person to set up a sustainable business will be procured for them, and they'll be set up. Now, hopefully, with the enterprise, the woman will then be on her feet, be able to run her business, and be able to sustainably support her family.
What happens with help and management? I think one of the words that you use quite often, as we've been talking, is support, and we also often find that even if somebody may have been given a seed in terms of capital or even training, thereafter, occurrences may arise where that business takes a beating. But the kind of support that they then require then is for management of funds that may be given to them, of management of their business. Is there after seed capital support? I want to say after sales support, but I'm not going to. But I mean after, after this capital has been given, is there support, kind of like hand holding that will take place
yes.
thereafter?
Actually, you're right on the money, because the reason, again, we have 500 and not 1,000 or 2,000 is to ensure that even after they are trained and they're given the resources, they are continuously engaged in terms of business principles, how to manage your business, how to ensure you have the right licensing, how to make business decisioning. So the hand-holding is going to take place for a period of time, even after they're kicked off on their journey as business people. And that's part of the sustainability we are talking about, where we are not just going to dish money and walk away, but this is going to be a journey. And then this is going to be a journey that we as Google are going to follow. Yes.
You spoke of 6,500 shillings going to each of these recipients, the 500 women, over a period of 6 months. Is it 6,500 per month for the 6 months, or is it in total?
It's 6,500 shillings per month for 5 months. And the reason why we thought it's a good idea to do this is because they then are able to free themselves completely to be able to attend the training.
Right.
So they don't have to wonder, while I'm in class, how am I going to get money to feed my children or pay the rent? So during that period, we will need them to be 100% engaged in the training. And for them to be able to do that, we figured that it's important for that 5 months that they actually get a stipend.
Okay, you've trained them, they're successful, they're making money, KRA is happy. Then what?
Then, what they say about training up a woman. We hope that they then impact a significant portion of the societies that they live in.
You've understood where I was going with this. Now, do you have a plan to actually, should I say, benefit from this training that you've given these people so that they, in turn, can be a resource for other people?
So we have no way of benefiting, but one of the things Google is known for is measurement. So if we are able to measure and see that the impact has had the ripple effect that we are looking for, then we'll be happy and we'll walk away.
Have you mapped the kind of impact that you expect to get out of this? Say 500 women have received support, they've gone through business training, they're getting financial assistance to start their businesses and the hand-holding to manage their businesses. How many other people are likely to be impacted by this particular project?
So we are hoping that it will have a 10x effect in terms of if you have 500 women who you've trained, each of them has 3 or 4 children, plus an extended family, plus they're creating employment because of the amazingly thriving businesses that they now have.
Yep.
We are then hoping that there's a 10x effect where we would have actually touched 5,000 lives in those specific localities.
Let's talk about the youth, because the other segment of the society that is really impacted by COVID-19, and even before COVID-19 in terms of job opportunities, is the youth. And when you talk about people who are tech savvy, also people just think of the youth. But there are very many youth who do not really understand how they can take advantage of all the tools that are available for Google. Is there anything that you would do to support them, to increase their awareness, to increase their, say, tech savviness?
So the youth have actually been disproportionately impacted by COVID. The number of young people who have lost their jobs or who are under risk of losing their jobs are quite significant. One of the things we have committed, again during this period, between now and the end of 2021, is that we are going to reskill and increase employability of people. Let me not say young people, of people across Africa. And we've targeted 1 million. And what we've done is we have set up a portal that has training. Right now, the training that is available there has a lot of soft skills and a lot of skills around digital marketing. Now, we just said that SMEs need to pivot and go digital. Who are then going to run these digital platforms on their behalf? Even when COVID is done and we are, quote unquote, back to our normal lives, one thing everybody has learned is you must have a digital presence. So for the people who are going to run your digital marketing, the people who are going to run some of your digital platforms need to be trained. So these resources, again, are available for free. Right now, it's digital marketing and a lot of soft skills. In November, we are actually launching certifiable skills, skills that come with a certificate that you can take to your employer. And these are around IT support and other more technical courses. A lot of these courses, we are not going to require prerequisites. So if you think your passion is technology, just go in and try your hand at it. Something else that we already have available online is how to code. Again, there are no prerequisites around this. It doesn't need a university degree. It doesn't need work experience. It doesn't need, just go in, and if indeed your passion or you're curious about technology, go in, take a course, take 2 courses, take 3 courses, and upskill yourself so that by the time when the economy is fully open and people are now looking for people, you actually have the right skills.
When you look at the kind of impact that an organization such as yours would have with such a program, then people start also looking back and wondering, why is Google doing all this? What's in it for you?
So Google is a citizen of this country. It's a citizen of every country where it operates, and it's a citizen of the world. What is currently happening across the world, we cannot sit back and not be able to jump in and help where we can. When you ask what is in it for us, our mandate as an organization is to make information available to everybody, everywhere. And this is the type of information that we think right now is most relevant for the situation we're currently in. So information around training and upskilling, information around how you can pivot your business and you can become digital. This is right now the most relevant information that we think the world needs today to be able to come out on the other end of this pandemic.
Okay. Maybe I'll reiterate Eric's question. How then does Google benefit? Because there has to be something that Google gains from this, because all that good simply taking place
Because you're a good citizen.
and the good citizen doesn't gain anything really?
So, truth be told, the specific programs we have discussed in no way provide us any revenue, any revenue, how do I call it?
Opportunities.
Any revenue opportunity or gain, right? How does Google usually make money? Usually Google makes money through advertising. So we sell advertising using Google Ads, and you'll notice this is the first time I've actually spoken about that.
Yep.
At no point, as we talk about job seekers, or we talk about the 500 women, or we talk about the small businesses, does the opportunity for us to sell advertising actually even come up? But if we have a country that's healthy and not grappling with the basics, then we move to another different level where we talk about, accessing the internet, we talk about accessing information and starting to thrive. When we get the economy to that point, then it's easier for Google to operate in the market. But if the market is completely on its knees, then it's impossible even for us to operate in that market. So it becomes part of our mandate to become part of the solution to fix this.
I'm looking at also more vulnerable parts of the society when it comes to, just what you've talked about now, and then when it comes to development of a country on a whole, as opposed to looking at a fractioned parts of society. The majority of Kenya's population today, unfortunately, would not be able to dream of the kind of technology that's required then to move towards some of the development that we've spoken about. How then do you see yourself fixed in a position to be able to uplift members of the same population who, for them, their reality has nothing to do with anything like this, but are vital to adding to the profile of lifting the country to the point where you've just talked about?
So as you mentioned, I think earlier on we talked about YouTube. One of the other organizations that's owned by Google is called Android. And one of the things that Android does across the world is to ensure that we make smart devices available to even the lowest part of the population. In Kenya, for example, we built a backend that is now more popularly known as Lipa Mdogo Mdogo. So we partnered with Safaricom, built the backend to allow for pay-as-you-go devices to be available to Kenyans, meaning at the price or at the cost of Sukuma Wiki. And by the way, that was the price point. When we said 20 shillings a day, that price point was pegged on how much does a bunch of Sukuma Wiki cost. Meaning that for 20 shillings a day, you can open your world to all new possibilities by having a smarter device. And our Android team continuously are developing with handset makers to find a cheaper and cheaper and cheaper proposition that provides quality information to the population, but at as low a price point as possible. Access to information is a type of poverty. Lack of access to information is actually
Poverty.
a form of poverty. And the more information you have available to you, the more you know about the opportunities that are available to you and what you can do to actually get yourself out of whatever situation you're in. So that is not a COVID program. That is part of our everyday work that we do to ensure that everybody across the world has access to information.
Before you leave, I'd like you to give me the contact of, or the site or the link to that training for teachers that you mentioned earlier on.
And then we also will share it on our social media handles on Spice FM KE so that they can access it.
Okay. So it's Google. The program is called Teach from Anywhere Africa. And the link is GOO, G-O-O, full stop, GLE, G-L-E, /Teach Africa.
Google.go/Teach Africa.
Repeat that again, please.
So G-O-O .GLE /Teach Africa. So I'll share the link also with you, and then you'll be able to post it.
Right.
On your social medias. So it's called Teach from Anywhere Africa. That's the name of the program.
I want to ask you to look at your crystal ball, not now as the Google boss, but as Agnes Gadaya, the professional. You have had a checkered career in the financial sector, in the tech companies, and now here at Google. Just looking at how businesses have been impacted during this time of COVID-19 and how they're trying to revive, and now this buzzword, pivot into the future. What do you see the business landscape looking like in the next, let's say, five years going forward? Those that are going to fall off the side and those that are going to survive. What companies are likely to survive this?
So going forward, I see companies, and I think we've been evangelizing about digitizing businesses for the last 10, 15 years. COVID has significantly softened the ground in terms of that conversation. So we've moved from trying to convince businesses around the value of digitizing to now them realizing for their survival, they must do this. So 4 or 5 years down the road, I think it will be impossible for anybody to set up a business that does not work on a digital platform. I think the future of the economy is based on e-commerce. And the beauty of e-commerce is you don't have to sit in Nairobi. You don't have to sit in Mombasa, in Nakuru, in Eldoret, in the major towns in Kisumu, in the major towns in Kenya. You can actually work from absolutely anywhere, produce whatever it is you need to produce, and be able to access the world. So the businesses that realize that early will then significantly reduce their cost structures and become more agile. So brick and mortar, as we see it, will have a role to play, but it will not be the only way that commerce is done across the world. And it also goes for financial services. We have seen during this period, again, the platform plays, anybody who has had payment platforms has done significantly better than people who rely on branch networks and that sort of thing. So everybody is running towards embracing a digital outcome. And 5 years from now, it will be intuitive. If you want to set up a business, then that is the way you're going to go.
I guess it'll also call for development of the entire value chain, because you'd imagine that if you start a business and then you've gone online, then you also have to deal with delivery of your goods or services to the customer.
Exactly.
Then how do you play in that space as well?
Exactly. So not as Google, but what we have seen during this period is the growth of logistics companies. Logistics companies have existed in the country for a while, but now we are seeing partnerships between organizations. And I'll tell you, from an SME perspective, from the smallest business, every small business has a border guy that acts as their logistics side of the business. They are trained on the brand. They are trained when you get there. Don't leave without asking for the money. It is this much. Don't leave until I have called you and cleared. So from the most basic, smallest companies, who now each have their own border people, to companies that are large, for example, companies like Glovo, companies like Sandy, who have seen exponential growth during this period and who have actually come up with new products, offerings to be able to serve traditional businesses better. And I'll give you an example. So traditionally, what would happen is for those who still use checkbooks, when your checkbook would fill up, you would go to the branch and pick another one. Or if your card expires, you'd have to go to the branch to pick another one. But during lockdown, what would happen? If your credit card expired and we are all telling you to go digital and use your cards and shop online, what do?
Yeah.
So a lot of banks, for example, have partnered with logistics companies to ensure secure delivery of your instruments. Yeah? So these are the changes we are seeing. They are not huge changes, but they are micro changes that will lead to a larger logistics presence and more acceptability of digital way of working.
Indeed. Interesting times ahead. Agnes Gadaya, thank you very much for speaking to us. And we'll be sharing all the links to the new programs that Google is offering, support for SMEs, support for women, support for youth groups, support for learning institutions and teachers, and all that. We'll be sharing them on our social media handles as well. Agnes Gadaya is the Google Country Director for Kenya and East Africa, and she joined us today to tell us what Google is doing to help support companies and small businesses and also vulnerable groups to pivot, as she's used this word a number of times in these times of COVID-19. Have a great day, Agnes.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Agnes.
Sante.
Thank you.
It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. Well, we'll have another conversation. We know what the CJ Maraga did yesterday, so we'll be discussing that in the 8 o'clock hour. Keep it right here. Spice FM, KTN Home, as well as on our digital platforms. Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
There's a lot of
Mornings done.
very many programs that are actually on offer by Google, and sometimes people just don't take advantage of some of these opportunities.
Sometimes they're just not able to take advantage of these opportunities. Because one, they don't know about it. And secondly, they don't have the wherewithal to take advantage of it. Because if, for instance, you're going to talk about what I was asking, what is my interest, is this...
the training for teachers.
Yes, exactly. You are not going to be able to train unless you can log onto this site and take advantage of whatever it is. It has to be online. Okay? That alone, just that capacity will limit many people who might otherwise be interested. Just that alone. But, again, one cannot help but commend them for the efforts they've made in ensuring that this becomes a possibility with that mdogo, as they're saying. It makes possible this thing which ordinarily would have been impossible. But the real gem here is how Google are able to actually build the market for themselves. It is good. It is wise. When
I support you, I'm going to benefit somewhere down the road.
But I'm actually, the support is actually genuine, and you can see the benefits of it.
Yep, indeed. Yes. This is a Situation Room. It's now 8 o'clock. Good morning.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
All right, so what are we looking at on the roads? How have things changed? Not much. Still bumper to bumper situation on certain parts of Mombasa Road. Thika Road near the Fig Tree Market is bumper to bumper, and that's trying to get into the CBD in and outbound for some reason today. It's looking pretty clogged up. Right around 8 o'clock is not a surprise. Everybody trying to get into the CBD at the same time. So as you approach with caution, but know that you might be there for a while. Okay, coming off of Mombasa Road as you get to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout is where you're going to hit a clog. And that'll take you all the way to Westlands. Baghdadi Way can be used as an option. It's not too bad as you approach the city mortuary roundabout. Getting through to Valley Road also will not be too terrible this morning. Apart from that, other parts of the city seem to be flowing quite smoothly. The southern bypass is also looking good as you try to get to Langata Road and then into the CBD, then via the Timor roundabout as you go to Baghdadi Way or then towards Nyayo Stadium. It looks good, guys. Spice FM KE in case it doesn't in your neck of the woods, and we can let you know what alternate routes are available. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The
2
Situation
minutes after
Room.
8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Spice FM, KTN Home, www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Maraga reaches for the hammer. Maraga does it again. What's the headline on the Star, CT?
The headline on the Star is a little less dramatic. Maraga asks Kenyatta to dissolve parliament. Told you.
Not as much pizzazz as the others.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, reaching for the hammer is something. This is what the Chief Justice, in our whole opinion, 10 pages of a letter to the President, says, given the wording of the Constitution, Kenyans clearly understood the possible cultural resistance to the transformational ideas on gender equality that the Constitution would face. However, the carefully designed enforcement mechanism of dissolution of Parliament, irrespective of its consequences, is clearly the radical remedy that Kenyans desired to incentivize the political elite to adhere to and fully operationalize the transformational agenda of the Constitution that they bequeathed to themselves in 2010. In the circumstances, let us endure pain, if we must, if only to remind ourselves as a country that choices, and particularly choices on constitutional obligations, have consequences. Let us endure pain, if only to remind the electorate to hold their parliamentary representatives accountable. Let us endure pain, if only to remind ourselves that as a country, being a democracy that has chosen to be governed by the rule of law, we must say no to impunity and hold everyone accountable for their actions or omissions. In the result, Your Excellency, he says, it is my constitutional duty to advise you, the President of the Republic of Kenya, which I hereby do, to dissolve Parliament in accordance with Article 261(7) of the Constitution. Drops mic, Maraga walks, Maraga waits for retirement. Job done.
And it seems that a number of people picked up the mic then after he said some of these things. And it's interesting to know what some of these responses were to the things that he said yesterday. Martha Karua weighed in, and what did she say? This is a timely and long overdue decision. The law doesn't leave room for the president not to act otherwise. He should be on the good side of the law and dissolve Parliament. According to conservationist Paula Kahumbu, Parliament has failed and given room to all agencies not to follow the law. We can't progress when half of the population can't be involved in decision making. It is time we reflected this. Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, Mr. President, now therefore dissolve Parliament immediately. Senate Deputy Speaker Margaret Kamar, Maraga has done what we have been asking for a long time. He has rightly interpreted the law, and there was no way Parliament would have escaped blame. Despite numerous attempts, MPs could not see the risk. What does Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru say? It is unfortunate that the 2/3 gender rule is yet to be enacted by Parliament. It is my prayer that the President will rally support for gender equality in the BBI should he not assent to dissolution of Parliament.
And they said all those things. The Senator Moses Wetangula says, on the basis of the legal doctrine and logic of balance of convenience, CJ Maraga is dead wrong. He has acted per incurium and nobody or authority will act on the same. The resolution, restatement and construct of the gender rule is not just about Parliament. However, Kithure Kindiki, the senator for Tharaka Nithi, says, I agree with my Lord the Chief Justice David Maraga's interpretation of the Constitution. Failure by the two houses of Parliament to pass any of the laws that are to be enacted by 2015 to give effect to implementation of the 2010 Constitution requires the President of the Republic to gazette the dissolution of Parliament forthwith. Any other action or inaction on the CJ's advice would be unconstitutional and illegal. He says he is ready for the election. However, let's also remember that the Speaker of the National Assembly has, on a number of occasions recently, spoken about this matter. And especially yesterday, he released an opinion piece on this particular issue. He says, look, there is nowhere in the letter of the Constitution that says Parliament has a responsibility of enacting a law to operationalize the 2/3 gender rule. He says the Constitution puts the obligation on the state to put in mechanisms for legislative, for policy, and for any other measures that will ensure that there is equality and equity in the society, and especially when it comes to gender. And he also says that if you look at the schedule of the Constitution, there's nowhere where he says by this time Parliament should pass a law on the 2/3 gender rule of elected representatives in Parliament. Nowhere. The only bit that is there is on Parliament to pass laws regarding representation of the marginalized.
Yes,
which the Chief Justice has mentioned.
Has Parliament passed those laws?
You see,
that's a by the way.
You see,
from where Eric is coming from, inconsequential.
But
you see what the Speaker of the National Assembly is basically saying is, look, we have been hammering Parliament all along, but Parliament does not bear the sole responsibility for this.
Who else? Who?
The state. The state includes you and I, CT.
I agree completely.
From the electorate.
Let me ask you the simple
From the
question.
electorate that in the last election,
who enacts
electorate,
who enacts laws in this country?
Parliament, the legislative arm of government.
So?
You see, but it goes beyond that. Is there a policy that supports this? Have the electorate even tried to show that they are willing to do this, to elect more women? And people could even argue, and like we spoke to...
The electorate can show until they're blue in the face, but until Parliament does what they need to do to give this law some life, breathing and active, it is moot.
No. The electorate, just by electing, even if Parliament comes up with a law, the electorate can elect 100% women. The electorate can elect at least more than the requirement of 2/3 gender. If the electorate choose women candidates, then whatever law comes into is basically moot.
But we're saying at this point where that has not happened, in order for it to happen, the Parliament or the legislator then has to step in and make sure that it is done. That's what we're saying. Because it has not been done, they need to take up the responsibility to make sure that it will be done, as opposed to leaving it up to the electorate to vote at the ballot. Now, that has not happened. Now we are saying because it has not happened at the ballot and we can see inequalities in the way in which the country is run and who sits in positions of leadership, then go ahead and use your position as the legislature to pass these laws and make them living and active in order for them to then be active in the country. That's what it is.
I don't understand.
And until that happens...
Are we saying that unless and until the electorate elects the requisite percentage
Then
of
it
women,
won't, then there will be no gender balance.
not only that, then the law can be enacted? Is that what we're saying?
No.
No.
Basically, what Muturi is saying, there is no constitutional requirement on Parliament to enact a particular law about this. The obligation and the responsibility lies in the states. Okay? From the people all the way to all other arms of government. And
Actually, the responsibility lies with Parliament.
and there's a piece of there's the legislative aspect of it that will come into
Eric, let's
Parliament.
pause for a single.
So, for example, that law that they have been discussing, the law on the minorities and such, because there has been such bit of a law. If it talks about such laws, if it talks about electoral laws and Political Parties Act and such, that promote, because the issue is about promoting, is not being prescriptive.
Okay.
The requirement is the state that shall promote this.
I understand the law insofar as I can read and understand what is written. Beyond that, I cannot even claim any expertise. However, there's something called a precedence, and I understand what that word means, where this particular matter is concerned. Now, unless we are saying that when in 2012 the Supreme Court ordered 2/3 gender rule to be implemented during the elections on March, this was what? The Supreme Court just talking to itself?
Just saying, oh, by
Not exactly.
Just saying that maybe we think this would be nice. No. There was a reason why it was being
Okay,
done.
it didn't stop there. In 2015, Justice Mubin Ngugi ordered Parliament to enact the laws within 40 days. Didn't stop there. In 2017, Justice Chacha Mwita directs IBC to ensure political parties' list of nominees are in line with the gender rule. 2017, Justice John Mativo grants Parliament 60 days to pass the 2/3 gender rule. What on earth were all these things for? In April 5th, 2019, Justice Philip Waki retired. Gitambu Kairu and Kathurima
Minoti.
yes,
Mutoi Noti.
I started with the M first, then I was going to go to the E Noti. Okay, I'm sure it's pronounced differently.
Mutoi Noti.
Okay, they dismiss the Speaker's appeal citing lack of good faith. What were all these things for? All of them were directed at Parliament. Why were they not directed at the state? It wasn't one person.
Because they realized whose responsibility it was to make it happen.
All these people, are we suggesting, did not understand the law, misinterpreted it, and now the Speaker of the National Assembly is the one who has understood it in its accuracy and is able to tell us what ought to have been done. Why didn't they kick a fuss all this time?
From the Supreme Court to Justice Mubin Ngugi, you think they didn't understand what needed to be done in order for this to be?
So why hasn't Parliament enacted these laws?
This is the
And
question that is being asked.
why is
Now,
the
we're not
Speaker,
talking about a TO of 2 years, 3 years.
and why is the Speaker
years.
of the National Assembly making such a big hoo-ha and an issue of it now? If I listen to the clip that is attributed to him, he argues it very fluidly. But then, against the backdrop of whatever else has existed, why now? Why wasn't it this eloquent previously?
Why wasn't this raised earlier?
Why didn't he raise it earlier?
Audible previously.
From 2012 to 2017 to 2019, he has had an opportunity all these years.
Okay, I want to ask the question, why has Parliament not passed this law? Let's bring in a member of Parliament, shall we?
Yes.
Honorable Millie Othiambo joins us on the line. Good morning, Millie.
Morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Also joining us on the phone is a commissioner with the Gender and Equality Commission, Priscilla Nyokabi. Good morning, Priscilla. And we were speaking with Priscilla last week on this particular issue, and here we are. It has hit right where it has hit. So, first of all, I want to start with you, Honorable Millie Othiambo. You have been a member of Parliament for the last 3 parliaments, right? You were in Parliament when we were promulgating this constitution, which means, and in fact, if my memory serves me right, you served in the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitution Review.
Yes, I did.
So you understand the genesis of this whole provision very well, because
Yes, I do.
you discussed this. You went to Naivasha, you discussed this. You were elected in 2013. It went to Parliament several times. You were again elected in 2017. And here you are, the Chief Justice says, you know what, Honorable Millie Othiambo and the rest of you, you ought to go home. Why haven't you met the constitutional requirement?
First of all, let me say that I agree with the Chief Justice. His position is actually the legal position. Parliament has actually, the matter has been before Parliament a number of times. Most of the times when the bill comes to Parliament, we either lack quorum, and a lot of times you see members being deliberately de-whipped, or I don't even remember actually when we've had the quorum. Maybe if we did, it could be once, but because we've been at this too many times, I've stopped even following the count. But I know there was Adwale 1, there was Adwale 2, there was a Judicideni, there is a bill by even Gladys Beausoleil, there is one by the Committee on Implementation. So there are many bills that have been thrown all over, and each time it reaches a critical stage, the members sabotage the bill. So there's been no goodwill in the part of Parliament to pass this law.
Why is that, Honourable Millie? Why would they sabotage this bill?
Well, the same old story that the same story for which we actually pushed for affirmative action, that there are male members who do not want to see many more women joining Parliament. But if we are also honest, there are few women who do not want many more women in Parliament. They will not say it very loudly, but there are some muted voices of women who do not want because they think that will be too many. But we are many because there was somebody who who enacted affirmative action so that they can also be there. So I think it's self-defeatist. But majority of the ones who oppose it are actually men. Not all men, but a number of men who think they don't want more women in Parliament. And because mainly most of them, it's because of the success of affirmative action that they don't want it, because they have seen women who have been who are nominated before and who have gone on to be successful, like Honorable Lesuda, who was nominated before and then vied for an elected position and fell down, the former member of Parliament who was a man. They have seen the case of Honorable Sophia Abdi Noor, who did the same. They have seen the case of Honorable Sarah Korere, who did the same. They have seen the case of Honorable Mishi, Honorable Aisha. I can give you the entire list, that many of the women who have been nominated have had a good showing when it comes to elective politics.
But there's this argument that has been brought forth by the Speaker of the National Assembly, who says, in fact, this obligation is on the states. There's no direct obligation on Parliament to ensure that we have more women being elected into Parliament.
There is state obligation to ensure that there are more women appointed, more women in appointive positions. But when it comes to elections, when he says the state, then it's actually running away from the reality, because what he actually means is when it is said that the state should undertake other activities, including affirmative action. But when you talk about taking activities including affirmative action, the state has actually brought bills, which then Parliament has failed. And the Constitution makes a directive that the Parliament be dissolved, not the state be dissolved. So it's actually, we can't run away from it. I know, because this is a very critical step in ensuring the gender process, then we will try and look for, the scapegoat of Leviticus. And we'll try and put all our sins on some goat, and in this case, our goat is the state. But the sole responsibility is with Parliament. Right now, going forward, it's really up to the President how he'll decide to move with it. Because even though the President is told he shall dissolve Parliament, there's no time frame, so he can decide to play around with that, even though there's an expectation in law of reasonable in terms of time when he needs to dissolve Parliament.
Priscilla, you said, looking at statements that have been published today in terms of what you said, Priscilla, you said, and I quote, "We have done enough talking on this. It's time to take the next practical steps, and this is what we will be exploring tomorrow." So in terms of a practical step that was taken by CJ Maraga, do you think this was the right direction to go, and do you think it would yield results?
Thank you, Nduh. I think that the Chief Justice saw the games that Parliament has been playing, and Honorable Millie speaking to them. And the responses that you are seeing from our male leaders are the very same responses they've been giving the bill in Parliament. They just assume that this is not a constitutional obligation for Parliament and began to cherry pick, what to implement and what not to implement. So it is good that it has come to this. The Chief Justice has now put it rightfully on the table. There is no running away from it anymore. And I'm particularly happy about that because, honestly, it has been a game, it has been a dance, and it's been unfair to the women of Kenya. And I'm sad that some of the positions the leaders are taking are very insensitive to the gender that requires the two-thirds matter implemented. But on to practical steps. There is an active bill in Senate, the bill by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Senator Fartia. And that bill is the one that we have always had in the Duale. It is the old Sijeni bill that they have revived. That bill has already done the timelines that are required for a constitutional bill, and the bill is at second reading. So I'm hoping that the President gives Parliament up to the end of this session, the session ends in December, for Parliament to enact that legislation because it is ready. The House Business Committees in the Senate and the National Assembly can take this matter very seriously and prioritize it. The parliamentary groups, the President should call a parliamentary group of the Jubilee and the Prime Minister, the parliamentary group of the ODM, and Senator Wetangula, who has really never supported women, So he also should call his party, and we should now call all the leaders to do the right thing between now and December when the session ends. That's about 60 days. If they fail to do that, I think the President will also have no choice. We just got an election and we elect new women who respect the Constitution. But it needs one last chance because there is an active bill. Allow the active bill to make progress. And now, with the dissolution in sight, because the President cannot lose sight of the dissolution that he has been advised on, we think that should be sufficient pull. If anybody has been joking with this matter, they should now know it is not a joking matter anymore.
We know that he's always been an encourager of inclusivity, and also when it comes to women. However, is this enough? And even though he supports the inclusivity of women in government, even if it's just a said thing so far, do you think that support goes all the way towards something like the dissolution of Parliament to have this achieved? Do you think that the goodwill is present in order to see that come through?
What it will do is, because Parliament, the National Assembly and Senate are the sort of primary institutions of governance at the legislature level. Actually, we left the formula. We left the formula well done in the assemblies, both at the county executive level and at the county assembly level. The BBI, really to be fair to everyone, does have some proposals for resolving this matter once and for all, including, sort of better ways of bringing women onto Senate, for example, through direct election, so that they can then vote, like we saw the women senators were not able to vote in the formula. So these matters are properly addressed in BBI. So it is important to churches, coffee organizations and all that. But the first place to start is the National Assembly and Senate. And it is not true to say that Parliament has no obligation. I'm finding the Speaker very unfair with that statement, because what has Parliament been doing for the last 7 years? Why didn't they say that they have no obligation in 2013? Why say it now in 2020? You should have said that in 2013, so that then the women of Kenya would have known where to go if Parliament was not obligated to pass the law on the two-thirds. But a lot more needs to be done. You're right. I mean, this just shows gender resistance. And that is why I'm happy to start with the leadership. When we wrestle with the leaders, the other men will be easier for us. Hao wengine kina Latiff au tutapambana tu huko. Lakini hawa viongozi, hawa ndio vichwa ngumu kweli kweli. Hawa ndio lazima wachapwe viboko na zite. Wakisha shika huko juu, the lower levels we education, training, gender roles.
Can deal with those.
A lot of things that we gender responsive budgeting, fighting gender-based violence. All of those things continue because it is a societal issue.
Let's take a break now. We're speaking with the Commissioner with the Gender and Equality Commission, Priscilla Nyokabi, and also speaking with the MP for Suba North, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Taking a break now at 26 minutes past 8. We'll be back with this conversation on KTN and Spice FM. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, Nairobi is still partly overcast in some parts at 16. We'll go to highs of 26 and a chance of rain later on. Nyeri is partly cloudy at 17. We'll go to highs of 26. Nakuru at 16. We'll go to highs of 22 with a chance of thunderstorms later on. Partly cloudy in Eldoret at 15, going to high of 20 today with thunderstorms expected as well. It's going to be rainy in Kisumu later, highs of 27. Currently at 22 and partly cloudy. Kakamega is partly cloudy at 19, going to highs of 24 with a shower expected later. Mombasa 26 and partly cloudy through the day, highs of 29. 26 and partly cloudy in Malindi, also going to highs of 29. 20 degrees in Kampala, and also the forecast says thunderstorms going to highs of 26. Dar es Salaam partly cloudy at 26, going to highs of 32. A warm day in Dar today. And it's cloudy and cooling down in Joburg at 9, going to highs of 22. And finally, for now, in Lagos, still cloudy, and the heavens will open up anytime from now, highs of 28 and lows of 24.
Spice FM. Njeri.
Okay, yes, still on Uhuru Highway is where we see the problems this morning, and a little bit off Thika Road. Yeah, and just at the Fig Tree on Thika Road, as you enter into the CBD, it's still a bumper-to-bumper situation and doesn't seem to be letting up just yet. However, it will. We're getting out of traffic hour in about an hour or so. So, the last minutes of trying to get there in a hurry is what we are faced with now. Shouldn't be too bad hereafter. Spice FM KE, that's how you can get in touch with us in case you run into a bumpy situation along the way. Yes? Yes.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
All right, 8:30. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM, KTN Home, and online on www.spicefm.co.ke and our social media handles. We're speaking with the MP for Suba North, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, and Priscilla Nyokabi, Commissioner with the Gender and Equality Commission. And as we went to the break, it's the two ladies have basically agreed that, look, this is a failure by Parliament to enact a law that it was supposed to have enacted. From the very beginning, they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, let's achieve this progressively. But by now, we still haven't seen the enactment of a law that ensures, even sets out a formula of how we're going to achieve that gender balance in Parliament.
You see, what I find interesting is the bit about the men are the majority in Parliament. That is easy to understand.
Yeah.
That they don't seem to support this bill is also easy to understand. What I have actually not understood is...
And it's not all. Let's not blanket it.
Well, I'm blanketing it just for the purpose of what
for the conversation.
Yeah, for the conversation, okay? Because the blame from what we hear seems to be placed on the head of the men. It's the men, the men, the men. Now, what I haven't heard is the efforts that have been made by our women parliamentarians. What have they done in terms of lobbying, in terms of structures, in terms of alternatives? When we were talking about the spoils that should go to the counties, we had of very many suggestions coming up.
Yep.
Try this formula, try the other. I haven't heard of that. So maybe it has been there, maybe they have made attempts which have turned out to be futile, but I haven't heard of it. So maybe, Mheshimiwa Millie, maybe you could tell me about the efforts that have been made by the ladies in Parliament to try and get this thing to pass through.
Yes, I can actually tell you. Women members of Parliament have done extremely a lot to try and get this bill passed, including sponsoring, urging our own members to sponsor the bill. That's how come you have Judith Sijeni. That's how come you have Gladys Beausoleil. And if you notice, Gladys Beausoleil is also slightly different from the earlier one. And we've also tried looking at it from political parties' primaries bills, because many women are being failed at that level, but which will only cure a little bit of it. We've brought, even through miscellaneous application, a provision that where parties don't, the parties that do not actually meet the one-third rule should not get the requisite money from the political parties. It has also been dropped in Parliament. It has been defeated in Parliament. We have actually used so many angles to try and bring this, sort out this issue. The greater challenge, though, is that because of the way the Constitution was framed, and I understand the history why it has a defect in relation to the National Assembly, is that largely for us to get those numbers, you need a constitutional amendment so that you can think of either mixed member proportional representation, or you could use a party list alone, or you could use the top up, which is used at the lower level. We have actually examined this severally. We have had parties, we have danced, we have jumped, we have kicked. We have done everything that is needed, that is moral under the sun. So the only ones we have not done are the immoral ones.
What percentage of men would you say have been supportive of this bill?
Well, the percentage of the men that have been supportive prima facie has been large but not sufficient, because for a constitutional amendment, you need 2/3. Now, why I'm using the word prima facie is because where the rubber meets the road, you can also play games by giving us 70 or 100 men who look like they support, but denying 10 who make the whole difference.
Right.
So you look at, you pick the 10 that don't give a damn whether they are branded or not, and then they take a hardline position. And then you are denied the quorum by just 10 men when it looks like over 100 actually support you. But from what we have had or seen in the past, it's a sufficient number that have been supportive. But then I think the other issue that we need to talk about is that when you talk to men offline, in the background, then they're like, we do not want these numbers in Parliament because those are huge numbers that are coming in. So we have suggested a different formula, but that different formula then we may only need to, or rather it's sort of like the one that is being suggested by BBI, but then even the BBI one, some men in Senate are opposed to it because then the BBI proposal will increase the number of women in Senate and reduce the number of women in National Assembly. But in totality, then Parliament will be 2/3 because then it proposes one woman, one man in the Senate. Yeah. And because if you do that one woman, one man, then you'll have had a very big, number, an equal number, which if then you add with the number that is being suggested in Parliament, would give the requisite number. But there are many solutions and suggestions that we have been given. There are people who have, I think, Honorable Agostino Neto with his Green Movement in the last Parliament also suggested a pairing in constituencies. And which also people didn't want. So it becomes because if you go with the counties, then you only end up having the 47, which is not the requisite number.
If you look at all these,
I know people have also suggested reducing constituencies. That is a near impossibility.
If you look at all these ladies, both Honorable Odhiambo and Honorable Nyokabi, the last 10 years, and even I'm sure you'll both look at it and say, even during the debates, during the drafting of the Constitution, the conversations that you even held in Naivasha, Honorable Odhiambo, you will see that the political class really has a problem or is unable to come up with a way to sort out this issue and ensure that we attain the gender rule. What else then can be done outside of the National Assembly, the Senate, to get this thing rolling, to get this ball rolling? Should we be looking back and seeing, look, we wanted this for our country, but it appears like it's not getting the support that it requires from the general population of the country. Let's review it and find a better way of doing it.
Eric, let me just come in now.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we don't want to go to options first, because what has happened with this resistance, we have to start with the law. There is, if we try to start from the society, that's even harder. So it's got to be a legal solution. And that is why the matter was put in the Constitution in the first place, because of the difficulties around it. And so whichever way we turn, it will have to be an amendment, a constitutional amendment, increasing the space. And that, the options have been given. I know that the National Gender and Equality Commission looked at as many as 10 formulas before arriving at the Article 177 type of formula, the nomination, and even looked at the costs of implementing the 2/3 gender rule. And there is a report on costs which shows that the cost is negligible. So there are other things that can be done outside Parliament, but let us not get away from where it starts from. It should start with lawmaking, it should start with the constitutional amendment, and it should start with leadership. They can't run away. If you look at something like devolution, it was very, very difficult to implement devolution, required billions of shillings to implement devolution. But because that is a male-dominated arena, there was no problem implementing that. The 2/3, the reason there is resistance is just because it is a gender issue and it is women at the lower end of the stick. So let's not get away from the source of the problem. It must be Parliament, so that Parliament does not say, as Muturi likes to say, that the state is all of us. That even we in the private sector, we are part of the state, even the court is part of the state. Let the matter and the ball squarely be on Parliament to pass the laws that are required for the society to then follow. And these solutions are tabled before, and we think that the little time available now should be spent on resolving the matter. The amount of effort the president took on the formula is the amount of time the president should now take on this matter of the 2/3. And the interventions that were done with the Senate are the interventions that should now be done on this 2/3 matter, and there is an active bill.
Mheshimiwa, this law that you speak
don't let us
of,
go to the village. Let's stay in Parliament.
Mheshimiwa, this law that you speak of, what will it look like? Will it enable Parliament to appoint more women? Will it enable?
No, it enables, like the county assembly one, after election, and you don't have the requisite numbers of women elected, then you use a party list to nominate them. And the Senate now requires only 2 women, and the National Assembly required about 22 women to fulfill the full 2/3. So you top up. It's actually called the gender top-up law. You top up after the election. So we can even have a debate on whether to implement it now or to implement it with the next election. But there should be a formula. Actually, at this point in time, the fight is for the formula of how to resolve the 2/3.
Apart from the top-up, has there been any other suggestion?
Yes.
Okay. I do not know of this other suggestion. The top-up makes sense, but what else has there been?
Well, she's talked about them, City. The one on, political parties, looking at representation and selection and all. But all of them appear to be flopping, and the only one that seems to always to rear its head up is the one for nomination.
You know, at the end of the day, they all sound like if the requisite number will not be arrived at, you will...
Top up. Nominate top up.
You will be engaged in some form of top up.
Honorable Odhiambo, does it sound like nomination then is the only way to go when it comes to some of these things? From the get-go, have women nominated and then see what they can do from there?
Nomination is not the only way. If you look at, we have examples, amazing examples from Africa. Look at the way Rwanda has gone around it. Look at the way South Africa has gone around it. Look at the way Tanzania has gone about it. Look at the way, Uganda, which the system we have right now is Uganda minus the numbers. But if you look at countries like South Africa, what they do, is not nominate women, but the parties use a list during elections so that people are voting for a list. As we are campaigning, people are voting for a list, so that if we give people a wrong list, like let's say if I'm putting in a list in my constituency, then people will say, yes, we agree with the ODM list, so that when it goes through, based on what numbers that you get in Parliament, then you are entitled to get those people on your list, so that it's not exactly a nomination, because people will be voting for people in a list. That's what I'm talking about, a mixed member proportional representation or the party list. So there are different formulas that can be used. I don't necessarily just have to use the top-up. The only reason that we're looking at the top-up right now is because of the constitutional possibility of framework of amendment. The one that is actually plausible at this point is that. The other would require going the BBA way and referendum. And the reality is that because this is actually an issue of that is controversial, if I may say, whenever you're talking about groups that are marginalized, it will always be controversial. And I'm glad that this is coming immediately after the impasse that we had at Senate. And you could hear the voice of the communities that feel that they've been marginalized over a long time. We're listening to voices of communities that feel that they're minority communities. They never get what they need in a silver platter. It has to involve some negotiation, and there must be an element of affirmative action in whatever form, and not only through the top-up. But where there is a will, there is a way. So like in this one, we were treated to theatrics for quite a bit of time, but now there is actually a solution. So in the same manner, the only way I would agree with the Speaker of the National Assembly that it involves the state is that now the Chief Justice has extricated himself. And so now the action is squarely on the foot of the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. And in that sense, now it is squarely on the state. Before then, it was on Parliament. The ball keeps shifting. It was before Parliament, and Parliament failed to do its part. It moved to the Chief Justice. And I remember I was in a meeting where I told the Chief Justice, I indicated, we had a meeting of the Law Society, and I said, yes, the Parliament has done its work, because you do your work either by affirming or not affirming, failing or not failing. Either way, you will have done your part. If a kid sits for exams and fails, you don't say they've not done their exam. They have done it, they've just failed. So Parliament had done its bit and failed. It moved to the Chief Justice, and we were telling the Chief Justice 1 month ago that now you are the one failing because the ball has been passed to you. He has now done his part. The ball is now up to the President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So he can choose to perpetra or he can choose to kill the ball. To score. So it's actually up to him. He can perpetra, which means he will delay with it, or he can score, or he can yet again disappoint the women of Kenya.
Interesting the way you put it.
The ball is on the right at the desk of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Interesting the way you put it. Does the president have an option? And this now brings in, and both of you are lawyers, brings in what the Constitution says: the CJ shall advise the president shall dissolve Parliament. Is there an option here for the president?
The president has a leeway, but not. Sorry, let me let
Priscilla, you can start.
Let me just go because I also want to get off to another meeting. But just see, the president has an option around time because there is no timeline in the Constitution. So the president can use some time to give Parliament the last option. But I think the president has no option. If this matter is not resolved, he will have to dissolve Parliament. The only thing he can do is give a last chance between now and when the session ends. We are also aware about the BBI. The president also is a big leader of the BBI. So the president now must lead in terms of the solution to this problem. And if there is no solution in reasonable time, because there is no timeline stipulated, then there is no further debate for him. He will have to dissolve the House as per the Constitution. And you know, that is the constitutional order, because in constitutions you don't pick what to implement and what not to implement, which is what has happened to this matter of the two-thirds. The leadership just chose not to implement this matter. Otherwise, it could have been implemented, and it needs to be implemented even now. So play with timeline, but at the end of the day, we are looking at a dissolution of the House.
Millie?
Well, I could say that to a large extent I agree with my sister Priscilla, that the president, the only leeway he has is in relation to time. Because when the Constitution says the president shall, then there is no discretion there. So the discretion that he has is in relation to time, because there is no time that is put in place for him to dissolve Parliament. However, if you are to talk very strictly legal, or if you are a president that is minded with constitutionalism, then we know that even where you have discretion in relation to time, it must be exercised judiciously. That therefore means that you cannot exercise your discretion in a manner that goes against the spirit of the rule of law, because the president, unfortunately, has increasingly been setting a standard and a legacy of disobedience of court orders and non-adherence to the rule of law. On the other hand, the Chief Justice has done something very interesting, that just before his retirement, he has pulled this major decision. What is his legacy in terms of the rule of law? He's exiting at 100%. People may agree or disagree with him in relation to the decision that the Supreme Court made in the electoral petition court. The electoral petition issue, the presidential one, but it has been lauded all over the world as a brave decision, even though people may disagree with it politically. But it was a brave decision. So that is actually a feather in his cap. And then he has gone yet again and pulled another major feather, which is to very boldly tell Parliament, you can go home. That is also a very brave rule of law decision. What about the president? What is his brave rule of law moment? Will he, as he has done again with the cases of the judges, hold back? But then I would want to add on something here, that I think for the president now going forward, I suspect he will use more real politics that as opposed to the law. And what do I mean by that? We have actually given the president leverage or boosted his political leverage without realizing. That's what that means. And now I'm speaking politically, I'm not speaking legally. That the president has this opportunity that he can actually, contrary to what most of us think, the president can decide this is a dysfunctional parliament. We are all over his head with too much noise. Go home so that I can start with a parliament that can, deliver my agenda.
Right.
And he can do that because we passed the budget. He can move on until the next parliament comes in, or he can decide to use it as a negotiating chip with parliament, or he can use it in whichever way he wants.
He chooses
politically. Yeah, and that is speaking politically.
Looking at gender equality and looking then at the dissolution of parliament, let's take a few steps forward, and then if the imagery would assist and say that parliament is actually dissolved, does this then bear any weight on this fight for gender equality? Would it then see, is one equal to the other? Would you then see steps moving forward in this race towards gender equality in government positions? Would it make that much of a difference?
Is Priscilla still there?
No, she's not. This is.
Okay. Then I could respond. I think there would be a forward movement because the constitution is not clear. I mean, it's clear that a new parliament that is elected would be expected to pass the law, and that if it doesn't pass the law, then the whole process begins again. Somebody can go to court and challenge the same parliament for not taking the action that is needed. But then I think ultimately it's about political goodwill and political legacy. So it would then be important for the president to see what kind of legacy he wants to leave in terms of the rule of law. Is he leaving a very divided, disorganized and unstable parliament, or is he leaving a parliament that is concrete? So it would actually then jolt the political class at the higher level into action, whether it would be through BBI or whether it would be through other ways of constitutional amendment.
Finally, Honorable Odhiambo, do you think this is a popular decision with the people of Kenya? What I mean is, if Parliament was to be dissolved today, do you think that women would stand a greater chance of getting elected in a resultant election?
Well, I think I see your question as double in this sense. Is the decision to dissolve Parliament popular with the public? Yes. Is it popular in relation to the issue of gender? On that bit, people get divided. Why? Because, again, as I've told you, when it comes to issues of minorities and marginalized communities, it's never about numbers, because we are talking about years of socialization that has actually then caused us to believe in certain issues. If I was reading the book that I love, Who Moved My Cheese, and you see that there is a little people, one of the little people, I think it's called He or which one, that was so stuck at eating cheese at the same place because that's how it was. That's how it's always been. That if I was raised eating cheese at a given corner, I'll never think of another alternative because I've always eaten cheese in one corner. And in the same manner, if I grew up being told that women can't lead, if I grew up as a woman being told that I'm not enough, if I grew up being told that I can't make it, then that's the narrative that I have internalized. That is the narrative that has concretized. So you will see that even the general public may not be supportive of increasing numbers in the same manner that you see the populist groups are not supportive of increasing money to marginalized areas in the revenue allocation.
Yeah.
The people will be insistent of one man, 1 shilling, one man, 1 shilling. Why are we insisting on that? Because we do not want to listen to these people who may not give us the 1 man, 1 shilling, but have a history of no roads, no water, no blah, blah, blah. So in a functional democracy, you must find a way of balancing both. Balancing voices that cannot be heard, including persons with disability, youth, women, and smaller communities must all be brought on board for the country to move forward.
Okay.
You cannot use numbers to steal voices. So yes, it's actually not an easy path. And one of the things that is likely to happen that we are not talking about is a backlash from Parliament. And yes, that we know that is likely to happen. That Parliament can then decide to bring a bill to remove the principle altogether.
Okay.
That we know that is likely to happen.
Well, let's see how it plays out. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, the MP for Suba North, one who's been advocating the issue of gender equality for many years, even before nomination into Parliament and election and re-election into the same National Assembly. You tested out of this poisoned chalice. Now, I'm sorry, you have to go home, according to the Chief Justice. Wish you all the best, whatever way the decision goes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are ready.
Asante sana. And thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this morning on KTN Home, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Join us again tomorrow and Thursday and Friday again on KTN Home, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. This conversation, however, continues on Spice FM. In the next hour, we want to bring it now to you and ask you whether you really support or what do you feel of this decision by the Chief Justice and what do you think the President should do. Good morning. It's 3 minutes to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, at about 2 minutes to 9, you've heard the two ladies and what they've said. I mean, this is an issue that really is bringing some clear divisions, even in interpretation of the law, in interpretation of the meaning, and interpretation of the responsibilities. Just like you said, it's looking for the scapegoat,
Yes,
placing it on the altar.
But then utterances by politicians must never be taken at face value. No. If the voices I was hearing were male politicians supporting this bill 100%, then I would say, well, a little change here. But the loudest voices that you hear from men are the ones opposing it. And for the longest time, that has been the case.
You don't hear very many men coming out directly to say,
No.
I support this
No.
and I think this is the way to
No,
go.
you don't.
And
No,
that's
you
what the
don't.
problem is.
No, you don't.
And
No,
that's
you
what the
don't.
problem is inherently, because then if you would
So it
get
creates that
kind of
perception as well
support,
that, the men in parliament are not supportive of
they're
this.
not supportive of this and they're not ready for this.
That perception is actually not wrong because it mirrors the very thinking of men in many societies in our country. The issue of women being in any other position other than what they think should be the woman's position and role is something that they do not want to even fathom. No.
So you can imagine if they don't want to fathom it, then the very thing that you would hope they would discuss then is a far thing. It's a dream. If they don't even want to think about it, chances of them discussing it and then enacting such a thing that would ensure that it was part of our reality is the farthest thing from reality. It wouldn't happen.
We discuss this issue further in the next hour, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and we'll ask you to call in 0719-012-600. Also, very many comments on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We will be sampling some of them as we go on. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Sugar
spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, Mombasa Road is looking much better, guys, as you're trying to get into the CBD. Not too much of drama, then all the way at least to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, where then you'll be stuck just a little bit between there and the CBD itself, and then on towards Westlands. That's inbound to Westlands. Apart from that, it doesn't look too bad. Coming off of Thika Road, as you're trying to get into the CBD as well, we still have that bit of a clog up right around the Fig Tree Hotel. Don't know what's happening there this morning, but that's what it looks like. Apart from that, it looks all right. Nothing else that's jumping out at us right now, in case something does, which, you know, Spice FMKE. That's how you can get in touch with us. Let us know what you might see that might bring a problem, and we'll see if we can offer a solution.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
All right,
day.
so 2 minutes after 9. Now we want to basically bring it up to you. Number one, if Parliament were to be dissolved today, and that's the question that we asked Millie Odhiambo, do you think the electorate would actually look at it and see, okay, you know what? We need to think more clearly about how we are electing people, and we need to consider the two-third gender rule and look at how we are nominating people in our political parties and how we are electing them. Do you think more women would be elected into Parliament if Parliament were dissolved today and an election is held within 60 days? Number one. Number two, do you think this principle is achievable at all in this country? Very many comments coming in. Just start sampling some of them. And also we want to take your calls from now, 0719 012 600. Let's take it to the court of public opinion. It's moved from the judiciary.
Nick One says, all right, so can activists tell us if there's a country in the world which enforces gender numbers in parliament through legislation? How can over 100 women be nominated to parliament on a whim, given the associated costs and space? It's impractical, according to Nick. Lirango says, it's like equality is an imagination. It doesn't exist and it never will, according to him. Putting a spotlight on pertinent issues and relating to... While I and a few others of my school of thought are against nominations, it's a wastage. Women and men should compete squarely and achieve the 1/3 requirement through Article 1 of the Constitution. Is there anything extraordinary that women are now in Parliament that have done in their time? Are we insisting about gender parity for the sake of it? Is it only meant to have women wearing different shades of lipstick in Bunge?
Is there anything extraordinary that women who are now in Parliament have done in their time there?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot.
It's in fact, even before you get to the a lot, what is fundamental? They've broken barriers that had hitherto been considered unbreakable. Because this was supposed to be the province, this was supposed to be the domain of men. And we have seen women parliamentarians who have stood out and women who are in politics still standing out. Now, when someone is disadvantaged, what is difficult to see, if you are not in their position, is what they see and what they feel. And that's why when you talk about women in this country, you think about minorities, you think about those who have disabilities, because they are all marginalized in one way or the other. So the only way you set these things right, and what is proven, is some affirmative action has to take place. There actually is no option here. In the absence of that affirmative action, believe me, that equity that we speak of the opportunities, because we're not talking about giving an individual, it's opportunities being made available. And remember, it's not the 2/3 gender rule. They're not saying women should be 2/3. And even if 2/3 were elected, the same rule would apply for men. But getting that so that you can actually comprehend that women should be in this position. Yes, women, and you're a man. That barrier is the one which is difficult to cross.
It's changing that perception as well. And the unfortunate thing that this debate always raises is why women? Why are we looking at women? Why now? I mean, if you consider that we're talking about 50% of Kenya's population that is marginalized, half of the country is in the marginalized group.
Then that's the answer.
Why?
To why
Because
women.
of our cultural issues, because of how, as a society, we have treated. So why is it that women do not go for elective positions? They will come and tell you the kind of uphill task that they face in the campaign trail. Those that have gone through it and emerged will come and give you their own history and say, I had to have a thick skin to just go through it. And it's not everybody who has that kind of thick skin. So we need to have, and that's what you're saying, the affirmative action, to be able to ensure that we open up, level the playing field, so that first of all, during the campaign, just to get that opportunity for campaigning, it's level. You are not looking at a woman and starting to ask her, so who's your husband and all those
who's your father,
kind of questions,
right,
who's your father and all, but you're just looking at her, so what do you bring to the table?
You know what is of interest? Even when we talk about grants and aid from abroad, what do they think that is? It's affirmative action. Someone figures, let's assist. People go abroad to learn. Many people qualify, but others make it and qualify because of the affirmative action that these high-end universities have. They need a certain quarter of people from a certain part of the world.
To balance things out.
Yes, it's
Essentially,
affirmative
that's
action.
what it is. To be able to balance things
So
out.
affirmative action is, if you look at it, is a really positive thing.
It is a positive thing, but also on the other side, you have to say that affirmative action stands in place when people have not made the choice to be able to bring it into law, as it were.
And don't seem likely.
And don't seem likely to do that. So it's almost as if it was a gentle forcing. A push to say you actually have to go ahead and do this for you to then see the benefits of such. If you won't see the benefits on your own, then guess what? We're going to help you, give you a little bit of a nudge for you to be able to see and understand what really it means to have a balance in government, for it to have a balance in how things are governed in your country.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then you will never be able to see the fruits of this.
Let's go to the phone line, 0719-012-600. Eric Odongo in Karen, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff and Nduh and Muga. How are you guys?
Good morning.
We are
Good
well
morning
this
to you.
morning, and how are you?
I'm good. I think for me, somebody once told me that whatever the mind can achieve, it can be conceived. A gender rule to me is an idea.
Is that not the other way around?
Whatever
the mind can achieve can be conceived, or
whatever you conceive can be achieved. Yeah.
Whatever you look at it.
All right, go ahead.
But I like your twist on it. It's nice. Yes.
So in this case, we must look for who to blame. Do we blame the women MP who are there for the past 10 years? They don't do, according to me, they have done nothing to push this gender rule. Because I've never seen them undermine about this gender rule. Or we blame the men who are MP who are afraid of the women power.
Okay.
Okay, to me, this issue can only be solved politically, not legally. Maraga might be right, but I don't think we'll solve this thing legally. It must be solved politically. As Millie Odhiambo put it, the backstop president. To me, it can boost its political ego by dissolving the parliament. But even if we dissolve the parliament, are we able, as electorate, as Eric Odongo, are we going to elect women on the basis that they are women, or we are going to elect women, somebody who are going to help us?
What's your feeling on that? What do you think the electorate are likely to do?
We, electorate. No, in this country, we vote what our political masters are telling us.
Okay.
So,
do political masters tell you whether to vote for man or woman?
man.
The political masters are actually saying now to the electorate that you should vote for a man.
They'll present men as candidates.
Okay.
No, man.
So basically,
You
they've
know,
told you.
we normally, Eric, we normally vote for party. If a party nominate a man,
Yep.
we'll do it with a man. If a party nominate a woman, we'll vote for a woman. We don't vote for ideas of people. To my concern,
Okay.
we vote about the party. Like my party is ODM. I'll vote according to the ODM.
The candidates that have been brought.
Yeah. If your party is Jubilee, you'll vote according to the Jubilee. We don't vote that this is Oduk. He is a woman. He can present us. He can do no. I don't think we normally vote like that. And that is the reality. You can take it to the bank.
Thank you very much, Eric Odongo. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
0719-012-600. What do you think? Should the president, first of all, heed the advice by the Chief Justice and dissolve Parliament? And were he to dissolve Parliament today, do you think the Kenyan electorate would then elect more women? And what is it that we need to do then to achieve this? Because we passed the Constitution, we the people, and we are talking about inclusive of the 30% or so that's voted no in the referendum. We, the people, gave unto ourselves this constitution, which says that this is what we need to do.
Mr. Odongo mentioned something which actually is very pertinent. If parties nominated more women,
yep,
and he is right, we generally tend to vote along party lines. What, of course, Muddy says, what is our party lines tend to be also tribal lines.
There you go.
Okay, but if more were nominated, then indeed it follows
then
that
more
more
would be
women
elected.
would actually,
Find their way into positions of leadership. That's
Precisely.
the thing.
Roderick.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
morning.
Roderick.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Fine.
Actually, City has just said what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
The thing should be embedded from the political parties itself, because the way the country we vote in the many elections, apart from the last one whereby some few independents made it through, mostly we vote on party lines. Tunapiganga suti.
Yep.
You don't want to know. You guys go to that paper, unaangalia chungwa, ama unaangalia nyundo, kutoka juu mpaka juu, chini mpaka chini, whatever direction you want to look at it. You see? So I think it's supposed to be embedded into the political parties.
Roderick, do you
Lastly,
think that, I mean, we keep talking about the majority of Kenya's population being young people, and even with, new trends and a new way of thinking, do you think that the Kenyan electorate is against bringing in women into positions of leadership?
I don't think so. We have had women winning seats in even the worst places ever in these countries. Okay?
Yeah. West in what sense, Roderick?
Apart from
I'm
Western,
saying
according to the Gender and Equality Commission.
Yeah, according to the commission, it's the worst is in Western Kenya.
Okoh,
I see you, Eric.
Western.
Eric, I see what you're doing.
You need to be whipped, is what she said.
I see what, Eric, you're doing, but I'm not going to accept it. But you see, I'm just saying, the women have gone through whereby cultural backgrounds that are against women and where FGM is going on, are very bad things. Let's say not bad things, but things that are outdated.
Yep.
And the women still have made it.
Yep.
So I think it will be a stepping stone also for for the political parties to embed that women, to nominate women more so that they can be voted in. You see? Culture plays a big part. Let's not push that away. Culture plays a big part in everything, our politics and our economics and everything aspect of how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Lastly, could be Maraga be having a secret agenda?
Like,
To do what?
He has been fighting the president all along.
so now,
Now, could he be trying to put a civilian coup, something?
pushing the president to a corner.
But
Targeting
has
the
he
president.
actually been fighting the president, or has he been fighting?
No, he
for
has
what
not been fighting the
considers-
president,
Yes.
but he is now fighting the president now.
He is also a president. Please remember, he is a president. Yes, he is. That's the title that he has. And what he's been doing is fighting for something which he believes is their due.
But now,
Roderick, there are those also who would
interesting
say
times ahead.
that Chief Justice Maraga has actually handed the president a very good parting gift.
Yes, he has.
And just like Millie Thiambo even said, that the president now has this, he can use this as a bargaining chip with
He's
Parliament.
empowered. He's empowered.
Bargaining chip for what?
He's completely empowered. He can use this. He can go to Parliament to tell them, you know what, you
But
guys.
right now, the president has not completed his agenda. He's rushing around
just
doing
one
his
signature.
project.
If you guys don't follow what I'm telling you,
home.
just one signature, you guys are home.
But that's how the country is polarized. I don't think it would be a very good idea for the president to to dissolve Parliament because it might open just a Pandora box that he didn't want to open. Whereby, right now maybe he has not finished dealing with the number two, and now before number two can engineer himself back again. Because what I'm thinking, what Uhuru is trying to do is try to retire with number two at all costs. So I think he has not done with his agenda. There's still the BBI.
Yeah.
He's rushing to do 1 or 2 or 3 projects here and there.
Yeah.
You can see the railway line is being made, and some stadiums being rushed somewhere. He wants to leave a legacy. I don't think he's already done.
All right.
He has still some agendas, some business to complete.
Thank you, Roderick. Have a good day.
Good day.
Karaoke in Wakulima Market, Nakuru. Good morning.
Yes, how are you guys?
We are fine, thank you.
Salimia Nduh Okoh, maski.
Nduh Okoh anasikia ako hapa.
Mzuri sana.
Okay. Thank you. I want to say something to do with Maraga. Remember when he was elevated to be the Chief Justice. Remember he came out with a scenario that he may be remembered with, especially, in terms of outcome of that election. He's a person always coming with something, and especially now that he is retiring. Just come out with something that maybe somebody somewhere will remember him. But my issue, my concern here is that he is saying something better, yes, but who is he telling? A person who knows himself, who understands what you are saying? I don't think he is even in this kind in terms of thinking. Whoever he is directing his message to, I don't think he's aware of what he's doing. Point number 2, in terms of agenda, even if it has to be dissolved today, I don't think women will be elected. One, remember, we are struggling with our life in terms of the burden that is already upon us, laid upon us by our leaders. We are already, in fact, tired of the many seats that we already have. And now that you are talking about increasing even it more and more than what we have already. So I don't think any Kenyans will, in fact, vote for them, and especially now that we are already overburdened.
Them being women.
What?
Them being women. You don't think any Kenyans will vote for them being women?
Pan, can you repeat?
You're saying you don't think any Kenyans will vote for them because we're already
I
overburdened,
did not
there's too
say
much, there's
any
no
Kenyans.
space.
I did not say any Kenyans. I'm saying Kenyans. I don't think they will vote the majority of Kenyans into our parliament. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. You don't think we will achieve that number. Thank you very much, Karaoke. Time for us to take a break at 18 minutes after 9. We're still taking your phone, your calls, 0719-012-600, and also Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Do you think the president should heed the advice by the Chief Justice to dissolve Parliament? 1. 2, even if Parliament were dissolved, do you think that Kenyans would elect more women to positions of elected leadership? Good morning. Let's take a look at the weather.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Through those clouds in
Spice up your
Nairobi,
life.
we'll see highs of 26 today and lows of 12, and a chance of a shower later on in the day. It's partly cloudy in Njeri at 18 degrees, 24 the high, and lows of 13. Partly cloudy in Nakuru as well at 18 degrees. We'll go to highs of 23, and there's a chance of thunderstorms later, coming down to a low of 12. The low is going to be 12 in Eldoret as well, highs of 21, currently at mostly sunny conditions at 17. Chance of rain later on in the day. There's also a chance of rain in Kisumu, where highs of 27 will be recorded and lows of 19, currently mostly cloudy at 24. It's 20 degrees and partly cloudy in Kakamega. It'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 16, and also a chance of showers later on. All right, let's take a look then into Mombasa, where it's partly cloudy at 27. We'll go to highs of 29 and come down to lows of 24. 29 will also be the high in Malindi, where it's partly cloudy at 26 at the moment. Out of Kenya and into Kampala, where it's mostly cloudy at 21, we'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 18. Thunderstorms on the forecast for later. The fog is back in Dar es Salaam at 27. Cloudy conditions mar the day. Highs of 32. It's going to be a warm day, whichever way you look at it. And lows then of 23. Joburg warming up ever so slightly now to 10. Highs of 22 and lows of 8. 25 degrees and partly cloudy in Lagos this morning. The heavens will open later though. Highs of 28 and lows of 24. Let's take a look then into Beijing, where it's still mostly sunny at 26 degrees. We'll see that as the high and lows of 17. London is sunny at 13 and partly cloudy conditions later, going to highs of 25. Paris today is also sunny and warm conditions, 12 degrees by those standards, highs of 26 and lows of 11. And finally for now, it's round about Tuesday morning in New York at 13 degrees. It'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 13.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
All right, so
Nairobi.
remember Ali Mokwere. He's what is he? Is he the deputy party leader of Wiper? Yep. Zipapa. That party that he had before he moved to Wiper. Now there's somebody called Zimpa calling him themselves. I don't know the agenda.
You have to be very careful
Zimpapa
nowadays.
Dibaba.
Mm-hmm.
What do they say? Huh? What are they saying?
So, Maraga's advice is very important in my own perspective, according to Zimpapa. But who are these invitees who used to advise the president? Kenya is just complicated. Someone feels like nobody can advise the other. I don't know who someone is, nobody and the other, but all right. So, the law is crystal clear, according to Daniel. He shall dissolve parliament on the advice of the CJ. Failure to heed is not only criminal, but unconstitutional. And according to Ongwash Gilbert, looking at it from a perspective of the party influence, as long as the political parties let the feminine be as preferred candidates from renowned parties, then they will be relied on being nominated, and they will still be very few as usual. Okay, so I guess what he's saying is that if you go the nomination way, then people are going to rest on their laurels and not have to fight as much to then get into positions of leadership. Then again, we'd be losing, because you want to see people come out for their worth. And I've always been a proponent of that, to say that yes, whereby women do need a leg up because of the historic marginalization, women do need a leg up and a leg in. However, I don't think that you would then just sit back and say, well, by virtue of the fact that I'm a woman, then the gods of merit, somehow the gods of good favor should look down upon me and then, let me in the door. It would be difficult then to be able to say that, because anybody can then just fly through the window.
First of all, let's look at the context of where we are. In this current parliament, just like Priscilla Nyokabi told us, if you were to look at the numbers required to just meet the 2/3, we're talking about 20-something, about 22. 22 women who would be nominated. That's because we have elected 47 women in the counties, and we've elected other women as members of parliament, people like Millie Odhiambo, people like the Kandara MP, and others who have been elected in constituencies that have elected a woman to be their MP. So already we have moved. It's not that we are now going to be looking at 295 and then look to fill up that gap. Kenyans are already electing women. So the nomination would be a few. Still, though, there'd be that feeling of, does this person hold as much legitimacy as the person who's been elected directly by the people? And that's a question that keeps rising up in Parliament, in the Senate. Why is it that the nominated members of Senate do not vote on crucial bills? It's because they are considered part of a delegation that is led by the person who was directly elected by the people. So it brings in, and that delegation,
is already in the Senate.
Is already in the Senate. Raymond in Langata, good morning.
Good morning, City, Eric, and Nduh.
Good morning to you.
Personally, I do support dissolution of the parliament, but not because of the gender agenda. The reason is Parliament has failed its mandate. They have failed to even the basic what they're supposed to do to oversight the government. They have failed to oversight the government. So personally, I support so that you go back to the ballot and we separate the those members who have failed to do their work. We send them home, and also those nominated members of parliament. Actually, I do not see anything they do for Kenyans because first they vote when it comes to voting matters which are crucial. They do not vote according to their conscience or what they believe in. They vote according to what their party leaders or their parties believe in. So I don't see any importance of these added members of parliament. They do not add anything to Kenya. So I'm supporting the resolution of the parliament because not because of the gender agenda, but because parliament has failed to do its mandate.
Okay, so for a different agenda altogether.
Yes.
Thank you, Raymond. Maulid says Maraga is exiting the ring after unleashing a KO, a sucker punch. He's living on a high. He bows out, leaving Uhuruto with a poisoned chalice. What a timing, exactly 3 months. This man is an ace gambler. The CJ has handed to Uhuru a grenade after removing the pin. Laughing man emoji, laughing head emoji, laughing head emoji.
Good job.
Do you think it's actually achievable, this gender? Is there any gender formula that would be achievable for the National Assembly?
Well, I think
that goes beyond nomination?
But one thing that really, over time, this is because of you're dealing with something that is so, it's not just a political issue, it's not just a legal issue. This is something that, unlike very many other things, is intertwined with cultural and social and historic issues. It's people who have, a certain predetermined state of mind, and that's the way they're going to go with it, whether you like it or not. That's the way they come to the table. They already have, an arsenal of thoughts and imagination, and you're going to be able to do very little to be able to sway them from that position. I imagine dealing with so many people who have come with this like mind, sitting at the same table and asking them to make a decision in favor of something that their entire mindset is against.
They represent a wider community as well.
This is what I'm saying. They represent a community of people who think the same.
Even if we moved it from Parliament, is there any way that this country can
If you move this discussion to the ground, you would find that you would probably hear something even more abhorrent than what you're hearing on the floor of Parliament. And even if it's not being said, these are mindsets that are flowing out just by their action, or in some cases inaction. You get to know what people really think and feel. And I think I must say here, it's not just men. It's not just men. There are very many people in this day and age, trending global, current women, who feel that women have no business in government positions.
Right. Anthony in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Tim.
Good morning.
There are two things that have always boggled my mind, constitutionalism and the rule of law. I'm not a learned friend per se, but since the promulgation of the new constitution, currently it's not new because we are over 10 years in it, there are two things that we are not just honest with ourselves. And the decision by Maraga to advise the head of state to dissolve parliament is within his purview. And absolutely right, I support it. My only worry is we've seen court orders, high court orders being flouted by top government officials. The Article 261, Clause 7 of the Constitution that Maraga advised on does not give specific timelines. I saw the LSK president give it 21 days. I don't know which constitution he has that we don't have probably. It was amended without our knowledge. Now, when there is no timelines, because what we had timelines on the two-thirds gender rule, the commissions that are supposed to be in place within a specific time of implementing the Constitution, have not been followed. How sure are we that advisory, which has no timeline in law, won't be implemented? The second thing that worries me most is, I think, the political scenario and situation we are in currently as a country. A friend of mine said that when we read what the Speaker of the National Assembly made a statement on in regards to that advisory to the President, it just lacked every goodwill, merit, and all that should come from that office. I'm sorry to say that. So once the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is part of the Parliament, I guess, is already recoiling to his cocoon and giving, I think it was a 4 or 5 page statement that has no something good for the country at heart or in the word, then I fear probably even the head of state. One, because 261, clause 7 and 8 does not give timelines upon that advisory when to dissolve Parliament. We only have that when Parliament is over another 90 days, we're going to have a new election. Our legislators have sold their soul to the highest bidder. And probably the BBI thing will be told to them that if you don't pass this BBI thing,
you'll go home.
Mortgages,
and you'll keep going home even
so
if you're
probably
re-elected.
they'll all swing, even those of us who are moderate and don't even know, like Ahmed Nasir, what BBI is about. Now, to our Parliament, they will just now play to the tune. There's this analogy of the cutting the bell or belling the cat. So I think they were waiting.
It's one of those
now,
days.
It is.
Yes, now I think this advisory by the Chief Justice is a bell. And who is going to put it on the neck of the cat? Yeah. So 3 things stand out. Our country has not been so good of late in following even court orders by almost everybody. From the second part is there are no timelines in the specific articles of the Constitution that the CJ relied on. And the third thing is the political scenario that we are in. It is a very good thing. I absolutely support it. Maraga has done, I think he's one of the outstanding Chief Justices in Africa or in the world. If there was a higher position than that, probably could have given him. Or probably could he go to be the governor of Nyamira or Kisii something.
All right.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Have a good day in Kisumu.
Thank you. Have a good day too.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. Should the president heed the advice by the Chief Justice? Number 1, is this 2/3 gender rule achievable at all in any form or shape in this country? Number 2, those are the questions you're asking. 0719-012-600 or Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Time for us to take a quick break, take a look at what's happening on the roads, and then we'll be back.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. traffic.
It looks good, guys. Not much of drama at the moment. Eric is looking and to see if he can see Mombasa Road at the moment, and he says that it's looking good. He's given the thumbs up, so that's a good thing. CT tells me that on the other side of the road, side of the city, Thika Road, into the CBD.
Right where we left it yesterday. It actually hasn't moved. And traffic, what it is and what it might be, well, why don't we wait and see?
Wow. Fantastic job. Spice FM.
Just go to the road and experience it yourself.
Terrible. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, 24 minutes to 10, 0719 012 600. Let's go to Mwakijembe. Our friend Mohammed is there. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Wangwana, salamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Mimi nashukuru na nina furaha kuongea na nyinyi.
Furaha kusikia.
Kitu ya kwanza kuanzia, why do we always like to behave abnormally?
I don't know.
Manake priority, you always prioritize issues. Priority number one is the well-being of Kenyans all over.
That is true.
The gender issue, does it add value in our well-being?
Does it remove value from our well-being?
Yeah, because if you keep on adding more nominated MPs, it's another cost to the Kenyans.
True.
Why must you nominate them?
So let it be democracy. Wengi wape. Wacha wang'ang'ane. They come in, well and good. They don't, wakae nyumbani, wale watoto. Nobody has stopped them. They can compete.
But
if they
Mohammed,
think they can.
you've started
Yes,
by
sir.
asking the question whether having more women adds any value to our well-being. Maybe we should start by defining what our well-being is.
You know, the way they behave, our representative, generally, and abnormally, their main interest to enter that August, September, October house, whatever month of the year you like to use, they are there for their selfish interest, number one.
Okay.
They are not concerned about us as Kenyans.
Okay.
And because we Kenyans, you know, you when you want to worship, during those old days, they always used to carve these idols. You carve it, and then you put a sanamu there, unachonga sanamu yako, halafu kishakuwa tayari, unamwabudu. This is how we chonga our leaders. We elect them. We give them our vote. That is part of kuchonga.
But you're not responding to my question, Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
And this is about gender. Does gender equality, promoting gender equality, improve our well-being?
Well, from the experience I've seen, if that's my personal view, please, and I apologize if I will rub someone the wrong way. That most of these our mothers and sisters, they behave more abnormally than our fathers and brothers.
What's normal?
Normal, unajua tena.
That's what I'm asking you. I don't understand what normal is, so that you can then
To
use
be-
that
to be
say that somebody
unselfish,
is
to be
behaving
unselfish.
abnormally.
To be unselfish, and you are there, you are elected to go and represent and take care of your electorate. And then when you put your self-interest and selfishness in the forefront, that is very abnormal.
So the men are actually serving this country unselfishly. They go into parliament, for example, and they do everything that is required of them to feed, quote unquote, the Kenyan populace without fear of favor. And they do this well with no problem. Every man who is in a position of leadership today
Can I conquer? Please,
No,
I
I'm
beg
asking,
to conquer.
no, I'm actually asking if that is what the men are doing.
I don't say per se 100%. No. You know, when you go do a test, you get 10 over 10, 9 over 10, 8 over 10. Majorly, I'll give men 4 over 10, and ladies, I'll give them 3 over 10.
Okay.
Okay.
So you think that the men behave much better than women. Is it because your expectation is different? Are you using the same yardstick?
Because you expect women to be in a position of, domesticity at home. So in parliament, you don't, or in government, you don't expect them, you don't see them with the same eye.
I respect the women. They are good leaders. But the Kenyan style, as I also yesterday, I think I remember, and I humbly requested you to bring experts to come and study our behavior.
I actually agree
across
with you
the board.
on that on 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask a different question, Mohammed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is promotion of other marginalized groups of our society of any benefit to us as a society? And now I'm talking about, for example, persons living with disabilities, ensuring that they hold positions of leadership, persons with disability, the youth, and people from small communities in the country. Do you think that has any impact on us as a nation?
May I ask you a question, sir?
Ask me.
Does leadership guarantees that you grow to prosperity?
No, it doesn't. It gives you a shot at it. When you're in a position
Maybe
of
shortcut.
When I'm looking at it, is if you're in a position of leadership, then you're able to articulate the issues that really matter, and you're giving them the perspective of your lived experience.
But our constitution is very clear, human right, across the board. You don't have to marginalize anyone. Everybody has got to get it
but
right.
our reality is
even
different,
our
Mohammed.
the reality. That's right. You came to the thing, the reality.
And that's why the constitution then promotes that.
You know, the reason why all these laws came into being is because clearly some partiality was evidence. It was evidence that not everyone was being treated the same. It was evident that people who were not accorded the same opportunities. And unfortunately, in this country, women fall into that group of people we refer to as marginalized, unfortunately.
Okay, let me look at it. Let me turn the coin the other side.
Yes.
Who gets the leadership of the country?
The electorate.
No, who becomes a president, rather? Let me put it straight head on. Who becomes a president in Kenya?
The person who's been elected by the people.
By whom?
By a majority of the people.
Majority. Where is the base of their majority?
At least half of
ethnicity.
At least
Ukabila.
half of Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you get a Pokomo becoming a president? Will you ever dream a Pokomo to be a president in Kenya?
I dream of it. They keep telling me that.
That is daydreaming, Bwana Eric.
Actually,
Bwana Eric is only daydreaming.
With the eyes open, yes.
It would be daydreaming, but you see, if you're talking about the smaller tribes, this is the whole point of affirmative action.
Absolutely.
To ensure that the opportunities are available to the community you mentioned, like the Pokomo. I'll take it even further to the Orma, who are in that same region, and to other smaller communities that people don't even know exist. If you're coming to talking about the coast, you talk about the Kambe. Most people don't even know there's a group called the Kambe. Okay?
Yes.
As far as they're concerned, they are Digos and they are Griamas at the coast. And you tell them, excuse me, it's
Waduruma
not the case.
also, they're here.
Yes, Waduruma are sizable. They're a sizable group of people. All I'm saying is, but even with their size, they're still a minority.
So are they being marginalized for not becoming presidents of Kenya?
That is the whole point of affirmative action, to ensure that doesn't continue.
They stand a chance.
They stand a chance. That's what affirmative action does.
Let's bring in Simon, who's in Njeri, as we continue this conversation. Simon, good morning.
Sir. Thank you.
Asante Mohammed.
Good morning, Latiff.
Morning to you.
Eric and
Anaitwa
Muga and
Nduh Mashati huyu.
Yes, on the first question, which was the first question? Whether the president should dissolve parliament or not.
Yeah.
I think CJ Maraga is one of the best proponent of the BBI because he has presented the president with a suicide noose. to dangle in front of the members of parliament. Because an advisory is not mandatory. And as others have stated, it doesn't have a timeline. And we have this document called the BBI, which you are being threatened on a daily basis that is coming up. It's coming up. I don't know when it will come up, because it was supposed to come up in June. Then COVID showed up. Now I can see a hand of conspiracy here. Yes.
So this
make your legacy and facilitate my legacy too.
Okay. There's a ball there. Okay.
Now, I'm not seeing the president dissolving parliament anytime soon. In effect, he has been presented with very serious ammunition to discipline the errands.
Is that all that he's been presented with?
At the moment, I can see there has been some bit of negotiations on how it is going to be. And that is one of the cardinal reasons.
Okay.
Simon,
now the second
don't you
one.
think, I mean, I hear what you've mentioned, but what I'm asking is, if the president has been handed this golden opportunity, is it only to set people whom he considers to be errant right, or is there more to it?
There is more to it, because as time goes, parliamentarians have become so bold that there is nothing else they are doing.
Which one? Our parliamentarians. Bold in which way?
Our parliamentarians.
Bold in...
Because they have been...
No, bold. Bold in what manner? How?
Yeah, bold in terms of they are not actually practicing the mandate that the electorates took them to parliament for.
Okay.
They are so much engaged on politics on a daily basis. Now they need some. They definitely need something to discipline them, so that they can come back online. And I think that ammunition has been presented to the president now.
Okay.
On the other issue of gender parity, I would like to revert to the basic definition of democracy.
What do you say?
The rule of the people, by the people, and for the people. We can discuss this until the chicken comes home to roost. But Wanjiko of Kenya is actually handing us a message that we don't want to listen to here.
And what's the message?
The message is Wanjiko wants to be empowered to elect the person of his or her like, because Wanjiko is general in gender.
Irrespective of gender?
Irrespective of gender.
So then, coming to ask the direct question, then Simon.
Now the Constitution has given a leeway to political parties. In terms of nominations, political parties also have a leeway. Yeah.
To balance.
If political parties want to bring in more gender parity, let them do it through the leeway that they have been given. But Wanjiko is actually talking about his or her empowerment.
All right. Thank you very much, Simon. Time for us to take another quick break. 0719-012-600. Also, Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Maishke says the current parliament just needs to go, irrespective of the third gender rule. The moment just happens to be a coincidence and the chance that we need to also get rid of the executive. This is how he's looking at it, Maish. Just saying, okay, it's an opportunity for us to get rid of parliament. And I think even the MP, Emilio Diembo, said, looking at the popularity of this, you look at it from two ways. One, does the electorate want the MP to come back home and change the members of parliament? Yes. Is the electorate ready and willing to discuss the issue of gender parity at that point and see how we can increase the numbers. Maybe, maybe not. 10 minutes to 10, 0719 012 600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
More calls
Nairobi.
coming in 0719 012 600, and of course more comments also coming in. Oyaro says the biggest beneficiary in all this fiasco is the president, who, according to Oyaro, could now serve 3 terms, totaling 13 years, because he's still eligible for election under the circumstances. So this is assuming, Oyaro, that if the president dissolves parliament, then also his term as president expires. But no.
No, it doesn't.
No. The two are not linked. Although the constitution foresees a general election where the same day a president is elected is the same day a member of parliament is elected, as all the other 4 positions, it doesn't talk about if, for example, if the entire parliament was sent home through this. And this also is a question that was raised by Ed Ndwale yesterday in a statement. Then what happens? Does the constitution envisage a situation where you'd have parliamentary elections without the other elections taking place?
You remember, this question wouldn't arise in the days when our president had to, first of all, become a member of parliament. Because that one now, it'd be like asking the president to sack himself.
Yep.
This doesn't arise now. It doesn't.
But no, here is the argument. The argument is a general election is held on the second day of Tuesday after every 5 years.
Yes, it
okay?
does. It is.
And this general election is for all the 6 seats on the same day at the same time. Now, if you are doing away with an entire seat, and this is not 2, this is MP 3, MP, woman rep, senator, and you have to now go into an election for those 3, is there anything like that provided for in the Constitution?
I wouldn't know. This one we have to ask the experts to tell us. But as far as I'm concerned...
But you say there's a by-election. It can be considered a by-election, can't it?
It can be considered a
Who
by-election.
says a by-election can only be 1? Can be 290.
The one thing that Simon was right about, the one thing, you know, 2 things have emerged here, with Mohammed and then with Simon. You see, with Mohammed has raised issues of disparity and matters that are associated with our socialization and our understanding of gender roles and issues around it. And he has brought it out well. And I think what Mohammed had to say is a reflection of what very, very many men think.
Absolutely.
And women in terms of roles. But that the presidency has been weaponized is without doubt a reality. With this sort of card, the president can right many wrongs. He can sort out many things that have been in abeyance. In fact, I was thinking as this was going on that, this should have come a little earlier before the Senate determined what the way forward should be. Because this would have been just the sort of tool you need
to accelerate matters.
Politically, it's very good for the presidency, but, as a system of democracy, then it may not be so good.
Actually, it is
because
very
basically you're saying that an entire arm of the legislature is being controlled by a president who has the sword over them.
Actually, yes, you are. And this is why I'm going back to the argument I always have. Our constitution is being put to the test, and you are beginning to see, the drafters of this constitution should have considered this. And the public couldn't. But now that this has arisen, things that ordinarily would not have been considered will be considered. So when you think of a referendum, once again, you think maybe this also ought to be included so that when such a thing happens, you ensure certain... anytime an issue of this sort, in my opinion, comes up, it is wonderful for the country. Yes, because I'm getting to learn things I didn't know. I'm beginning to understand things I didn't know, even about the Constitution.
And even about leaders that you would have,
Yes.
things that you would have never heard from particular leaders or people in particular positions, had such a statement not been made. It's interesting that those have come out. Muturi's statements yesterday, for example, another statement that came about. Then you ask yourself, okay, so did we have these individuals who are sitting in these positions and having not done anything?
All this?
Did they know all along? Did they know about this? Could they have spoken up? So then maybe in making a decision in the future, you want somebody who's going to be vocal about things like this at any turn, or as opposed to sitting and waiting for something to be said, and then finally we hear your voice.
Indeed.
No.
From the beginning, by the way, this is something that if this was the position, if this is what Justin Muturi felt, he should have come out from the very onset.
Absolutely.
All the MPs, I've even seen Moses Kuria is going in and saying, and Moses Kuria has said this before, that he always votes no into these on these matters because he believes that this is unachievable. Now, if we had a coming together of all these voices that come together and say, you know what, guys, we believe that this is unachievable and then this is the way out of it, they'd have taken leadership. What we are seeing now is a demonstration of a failure of leadership, and we've talked about this in the last couple of weeks. Failure of leadership in the Senate, failure of leadership in the National Assembly, failure of leadership in the executive. This is why we are where we are now. If they had taken up their role as leaders, then they'd have seen this is the requirement, this is the expectation, this is the route, it is not achievable, this is the way out, and come to us and tell us this is what we think.
We propose. But you have to look at it, and it's not just about the gender debate. Then there's failure that is all round in other sectors of government. It's not just about the gender debate. The gender debate segues now into other areas that should be looked at, that probably should be spoken about, that should be investigated. This just gives you an opportunity to see how deep the failure has actually gone.
But what is of interest is the failure that our leaders have had in ensuring that their priorities, the lives of Kenyans, has now caught up with them. Because now they're in a position where they have, as they say, the proverbial axe or sword hanging
over their heads.
Yes, exactly.
Because in the private sector, you don't do your job, you go home.
Traitors eventually betray themselves.
This is it.
Yes.
This is one of those instances and
Yes.
opportunities where the traitors have basically
betrayed themselves.
they've been caught.
They have brought this on their head. They've had ample opportunity to have set this thing right more than you can think of.
10 years.
Yes.
3 different houses of parliament.
They haven't. They haven't because they didn't think. So they betrayed the citizens who voted them in. And lo and behold, now they have actually betrayed themselves.
Today's proverb.
This one fits in perfectly. Anger and madness are brothers.
Who's angry? Who's mad?
We, the Kenyan citizenry, have been angry for the longest time with the decisions that the leaders make. And the only excuse that the leaders can have about the decision they keep making is that they are not in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
Yes. So being brothers doesn't mean you have to agree.
But who's mad?
It just means you're related because our leaders are us. They are from our midst. And if the decision-making process has been as shallow as it is, my friend, we are angry. They have made decisions that any right person in their right mind wouldn't make. How do you make a decision that actually comes to haunt you and rob you of the very thing you fought so hard for? Is that not madness?
It is madness. It is madness. Thank you very much for joining us today at the Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and we'll be on KTN Home between 7 and 9 a.m. And this conversation continues. Nduh Okoh?
Yes.
What you say?
I say we need to keep talking, folks, and we'll do that tomorrow. Have a good day.
Monique is back this week, so join her from 3 to 7 on Spice Drive, and then the adults in the room between 7 and 10. Now until 3 o'clock, sugar and spice and everything nice. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Saying goodbye to you is Eric Latiff, Nduh Okoh, and CT Wamashati Muga. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life